live now, so hi to everybody joining the stream. It's starting at about 5:08 p.m., which means that if you're seeing this later, you should be able to scrub all the way to the latest time frame to watch it live. I don't know how long we'll be up. What I tend to do with these is Danielle or I will come up, we'll update you on what's going on with the storms. We'll stay up as long as we need to until we feel as though this more significant threat has started to come down. So we don't do this for every storm, but we do it for ones that we think are a little bit more significant. We've been watching one in the Lakes region, New Hampshire, we're going to talk about. Been watching storms in western Massachusetts. First of all, this is an interactive experience. This is not like when I was on broadcast for 25 years out of Boston and New England where I just talked to you. This is a chance for us to communicate back and forth. So many of you already have been communicating with your storm reports today. Saw a big storm in Falmouth Foreside up to Yarmouth and out toward Gorham, Maine, just north of Portland. Significant damage done with a number of trees that were brought down, snapped, power poles that were brought down for that matter as well. Pieces of roof that we have reports were lifted up and in some cases removed. So very significant storm there. Let's go ahead and get to the radar and show you what's going on. I'm going to be doing this over the course of the day. And again, multiple ways to chat with us. One way is right through the comments. If you're watching on social media, we are simulcasting this now across Facebook and Twitter or X, and also on Twitch and YouTube. Plus, you can go right to our homepage, livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. All right, let's start out with what's going on with that storm that's over the Lakes region of New Hampshire. If you're watching from Laconia right now, you've got a pretty decent storm coming in. Now, there's some frequent lightning that's with it over Sanborn. It's just crossing Interstate 93. Part of what we've been watching with this storm is a significant wind signature that's coming up with it here. So if I go over to the velocity scan, one of the things that immediately stands out here is we're talking about a wind that appears to be moving in different directions. You've got that right here over Sanborn now, where the red indicates air moving one way and the green indicates air that's moving in another. So what I'd like to do is take this and switch us over to what we call the storm relative velocity. In this particular instance, what we do is we correct for the storm motion. So we want to know, is the rotation in this thing tight enough that it indicates that there may be a tornado developing. And at this point, I don't see it quite tight enough, but it's been trying to trend in that direction. Yep, there's the latest scan now. You can see certainly air moving one way around the storm here, air moving the other way when you get on the south side of the storm. And in the middle, there is an area where there is not what we call gate-to-gate shear. It's not exactly touching, so at this point, you're not looking at something that would be an imminent tornado development. But you are looking at a burst of pretty substantial wind that's coming through Sanborn right now and making its way over Route 3. So in Laconia, we're on the north side of the storm. We are seeing a bit of an uptick in lightning. Cloud-to-ground lightning strikes have begun. When you get on the south side of Laconia, we can get down to street level. And here is the Daniel Webster Highway and Route 3. When you get around Horn Road, we've had a lightning strike that's come down already. So if you are watching along the south end of Lake Winnipesaukee, certainly you want to make sure that you are safely to shore and sheltered someplace that is grounded, someplace that you can be safe from the lightning. The other option here is if you're watching from, let's say, the north side of Lake Winnipesaukee, most of the action is probably going to stay on the south side of the lake, but I don't know that I would want to take my chances with the fact that we've got downpours over Meredith, and it's certainly quite possible some of those will end up producing some cloud-to-ground lightning, although that's not happening right now. Also, by the way, just getting reports of a large branch down in western Mass, tree down and wires on the road in western Mass. I'm going to take you there next. Let me first of all get you the overall kind of view on who's getting what here in central New Hampshire. Sanborn, you're getting it right now. Belmont, the core of the storm is over you at 5:26. Rain has already begun. And Gilmanton, about 5:32 is when the core of the storm comes over. You can see there is down in the lower left here a 50% chance of severe hail with hail size to 1.25 inches. And we are going to watch very carefully that bit of rotation we've started to see show up. So again, that is one of the first storms that I'll point out to you that we're paying close attention to. You'll notice multiple other storms now in southern Maine, around Sanford, Maine, Barnstead, heading into Rochester, and then farther off to the south and west. We've had a severe thunderstorm warning that's been up in southeastern Vermont that is just about to cross the Connecticut River and head toward Keene. We'll see whether we get an extension of the warning that goes there. Let's switch over to the Albany radar where we can see western New England a little bit better. And you can see, first of all, that storm I just mentioned that's coming out of Rockingham and moving east-southeast. And then finally down to the south, these are the stronger storms in western Massachusetts just starting to take off. So from the Skywarn Spotter Network, and again, remember, that all of the reports you share with us via the Send to Us tab in the bottom of our 1 Degree Outside weather app go directly to the National Weather Service Skywarn Spotter Network. We are big proponents of sharing openly the information so that we can make things better for everyone. But we are now in a severe thunderstorm warning in Springfield and Chicopee, Massachusetts, with a storm that's coming out of Huntington. The core of the storm, there's your arrival time, showing up in Russell at 5:18. Again, this is the core, the leading edge to the rain and lightning. Starting sooner than that, you're probably about 10 to 15 minutes out now in Springfield before the rain and the lightning begins. Westfield, the core of the storm, arriving at about 5:31. Holyoke about 5:39. Chicopee about 5:41. And West Springfield about 5:42. You've got hail with this one that may be on the order of about a half inch, but again, damaging wind would be a concern with this, especially since the Skywarn Spotter Network now is reporting in the area of 215 Prospect Street in Lee, Massachusetts, a large branch down on the road. Also, Lee, the Mass Pike westbound, mile marker 15.2, a tree has come down. And in Washington, Massachusetts, out there in western Mass, for those of you watching us in western parts of the state, over on Washington Mountain Road, a tree is down on wires and blocking the road there as well. Report coming out from Chris Jarzinka, running out of Wolfboro, New Hampshire, where right now the skies, he says, are threatening, but no action in Wolfboro as it goes around the town. The wind about as calm as it's been all day, says Chris. So thank you for the report there as well. Invite you to give your reports now. Also, I'm going to be monitoring every kind of method of chat that we have so we can stay in touch together. Great to see everybody jumping on. Daniel moving to Mason, New Hampshire to see how that storm is, hoping it holds. Can't make it in time for the southern storms. Daniel, keep us posted. We really appreciate the kind of in the field report there. Boston Becker's got the notification you're about to stream. Good, I'm glad. Matthew says a severe thunderstorm. Yes, Matthew, a severe thunderstorm watch is up. Left the Ossipee area early today because of the forecast, says Jim. Glad to hear that. Much thanks. You're welcome, Jim. Thank you for chiming in. Keep us posted on what's going on. Al, thank you very much for the compliment. Time to collect the lawn furniture, says the Blue Bomber. Yes, absolutely. Good idea. So again, some of you watching on different platforms, and just so you know what I'm going to be doing here over the course of this time, and I don't know how long it will be because I'll go as long as it takes. I'm going to continue to give you radar updates. And what I'm doing here is watching not only the radar out of all different spots in New England, every National Weather Service radar, but I'm also going to give you my analysis. But a key part of that is to hear your reports and find out exactly what's going on in your neck of the woods. So a couple of ways to do that. We are streaming live right now on Facebook, on X or Twitter, on YouTube, on Twitch. That Twitch live stream goes to our website, livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. Some of you watching on the app, and we're very sensitive to that because we know that some of you may be watching while you're either out hiking, out camping, out on the boat, whatever the case might be, and we are going to take good care of you. But I do invite you to go ahead and chat with me if there's something that you feel we need to be covering that we're not. That's the beauty of this kind of interactive experience that we do together. Wind is starting to pick up in North Andover, says Richard. Thank you very much. And you can see if I switch back over to radar, storms are still fairly far out from you in the Merrimack Valley. You've still got probably at least another hour to go by the time you get into it. Light rain and thunder in Northampton. Thank you, Kevin. You are just now right on the outskirts here of the storm that's cutting across the Pioneer Valley. Matt, thank you. Appreciate you being here, and please continue to spread the word. That is how this will continue to grow, is letting folks know that we've got 1 degree outside that's available to everybody. Okay, let me get back to the radar analysis, and I'll keep checking in on the chat. This time we'll start south and go north from there. So one of the things that we're going to be watching for here, when you get over Belchertown, we've seen some of the cores of these storms so far today picking up some rotation to them. Now, if you watch often when we do these, I tell you that rotation in a storm is not necessarily uncommon, and I really do mean that. We see that happen pretty often. But what you need to watch for is if that rotation begins to tighten. That's when you have a concern that you may be dealing with something like a developing tornadic system. At this point, I don't see that overwhelming at all. The storm in Belchertown, there's a big area of strong wind that's developing here, so we will likely look at an extension of a severe thunderstorm warning before long that'll come off to the east, making its way toward Warren and West Brookfield and Brookfield. I would be on guard for the storm headed your way. In terms of towns and times, the center of the storm would be somewhere around 544 to Warren, but again, you can see a lot of that kind of leading edge to the gusty wind is coming out ahead of the center, so why don't we shave 10 minutes or at least about 5 to 10 minutes off of those times for you. Then we get farther to the west. And yes, we are looking at a little bit of rotation that's showing up here as well. But if I swing things over to the more conventional radar view, it is in the center of the updraft. That is certainly an area then that you're going to be very concerned about and watch. But right now, we're not looking at shear that comes back all that strong. As a matter of fact, if I put a shear marker on there, you can see that green that shows up. And that is a low to moderate shear, but not strong enough that it really jumps out at me quite yet. I'm also seeing in the latest radar scan some separation going on here between where the air is kind of rotating. That's good. It shows a broad scale rotation instead of something that's tight. As I swing back over to the regular radar imagery for you, and I zoom out just a bit, let's show you the towns and times on the core of this one. This one's going to go through the heart of the Pioneer Valley, so you're coming through Holyoke about 5:43. Again, you're already raining in Holyoke. You've already got thunder and lightning, but that's the core of the storm with some small hail, the worst of the lightning, the torrential downpour, the chance for damaging wind just out ahead of it. Chicopee at 5:44 and Springfield at 5:47. For those of you that are tuning in from the Lakes region of New Hampshire, we've been giving you updates here this afternoon. So let's bring the view farther to the north. Now, it's something that we see here with clusters of storms, but the center of the strongest cluster is the one that I'm most concerned with. And this is the storm now that is impacting the south side of Laconia, but really hitting Belmont head on as it crosses 106. This is going to head directly to Alton. So in Alton, you want to be aware of the fact you've got a whole bunch of lightning coming in and the chance for damaging wind as well. We haven't looked at the wind inside the storm in a little while. Still seeing a broad scale rotation, not necessarily a tight one that would indicate a tornado, but rather one that would indicate a broad, straight line damaging wind potential. And if we swing over to the gray main radar, we're seeing the exact same thing. So essentially what that means is that right at the center of this storm, between Laconia and Belmont over 106, where you see that big conglomeration of lightning that's coming right now, this is where we're getting a burst of wind that is very likely going to cause at least some spots of damage as it comes through. It should be right along and just north of Gilmanton to Gilmanton Ironworks. Loon Cove will end up bearing some of this storm as well as it continues to move off to the south and east. And if we keep shifting the view south and east, here's what I meant about Alton being in the path of the storm. The core of the storm with the capability of damaging wind arriving to Alton by 5:45. I always encourage you to look at these as the latest possible arrival times, because we are tracking the core of the storm with these. Sometimes I'll do the front edge. In this particular instance, though, I'm showing you when the damaging wind core would be most likely to arrive. Let's get back over to the more conventional radar and notice that chance of hail that shows up toward the bottom of the screen. 100% chance of hail inside of here. All right, we've got a severe thunderstorm warning that's just been issued for Worcester County. I'm going to guess that that is an extension of the one I just told you about that was headed out to Brookfield, but we're going to head there in just a second and make sure. Get a good look at it here in central New Hampshire. Again, if you're dealing with some of the storms around this, around Canterbury, Boscawen, or running all the way back down to the south and westward Keene, these are not as strong as what we're dealing with coming out of Laconia heading to Alton right now. So that's kind of the one big strongest game in town in New Hampshire. The stuff farther to the north, actually not even that much in the way of thunder and lightning in the Mount Washington Valley right now. Heavy rain and an occasional rumble, but that's about it. Let's get back down to that new severe thunderstorm warning, the one that you're probably not too surprised about because we had just looked at that a short time ago. And there it is, coming out of Belchertown, headed out toward Warren and Brookfield. This severe thunderstorm warning does include Sturbridge, although interestingly, right now, the core of the storm looks like it may stay a little bit farther north than that. One of the things that I told you I would like to do is draw on the leading edge for you so you get an idea. And when I say leading edge, I won't do the light rain. We'll do what's going on with regard to some of the more significant rain, the thunder, the lightning. Here's your towns and times for that. Likely to be into West Brookfield on that leading edge by 5:39. Charlton about 6 o'clock. And Oxford, Massachusetts around 6:09. Oxford, you're right on the edge of the severe thunderstorm warning. We'll see whether this storm holds its strength. There's no reason that it shouldn't. One of the things that we can track, and I'll do it in a minute, but I want to check the chat first, is we can track available thunderstorm energy so that you can get a really good feel for exactly where the storms may strengthen and where we think that they won't strengthen. So we'll get to that in a second. Let me check the chat again. A reminder, this is not intended to be a broadcast so much as it is an interaction. So that means that you can always chime in via social media, YouTube live stream, Twitch live stream, and that Twitch live stream is at livestream.onedegreeoutside.com or streaming on our app right now as well. All right, so Josie says this looks like the main show, or could there be a second line of storms later? Josie, I think this is going to be the main show. I think what's going to happen here, we've already found cooler and more stable air coming in behind this to northern and western New England. So I fully expect that once this line of storms comes through, that's pretty much going to have spent a lot of the energy. And I'll show you that here in just a minute. Lower dew points after these pass, asked Boston Beckers. Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I think we're talking about what's going to be a really comfortable day for tomorrow. Beautiful stuff. High temperatures 75 to 80, maybe more like 70 in northern New England. Really great. Awesome air. No rain yet in Epping. All right, thank you, Matthew. Janet, storms seem to be splitting. Yes, and do you know what, Janet? I'm going to show you that here in a second. That was well predicted by some of the high-resolution forecast guidance that there would be a bit of a split here. But let me cover that more in just 1 second, and we'll take a look together. Jeff, yes, I think that Attleboro, much like the last couple of events, is going to end up with something out of this. You've got a lot of thunderstorm energy that I'll show you in a minute. I do think that that storm that was just warned on in Worcester County has your name on it, so we're going to watch that. Any chance of rain for Haverhill? Yes, Andrew, I believe that line of storms you're looking at up in New Hampshire will not only hold together, but may strengthen when it hits the Merrimack River Valley. We've now hit, being a lifelong Merrimack River Valley guy here, I can tell you that we've hit that time of the year. The river has begun to warm a little bit. We've got enough humidity around. We've added a little bit more in the valley, and I do think that you're going to see perhaps some strengthening as it drops in from Manchester to Nashua and then comes into Essex and northern Middlesex County. So watching you very carefully here. If the split that Janet was referring to happens, it's probably going to be somewhere around the metro west of Boston, but we'll get to that in just a minute. Ethan, hopefully that answers your question as well. Karen, welcome aboard. Thanks for the compliment. And Kate, absolutely. Quiet here in Mason, New Hampshire. Really appreciate you chiming in as well. Let's go ahead and take a look together then at what I think is going to be happening with regard to kind of what's coming up. I'm going to switch things over to a little bit different view. You're going to see it go away and then come back. No worries on that. Here we go. So this is where our severe thunderstorm energy is right now. I'm going to zoom us in and you'll get a better view. I'll also tilt the view up to make it a little bit easier on the eyes. So notice what I'm talking about, where the yellows represent some of that moderate storm energy. And you see that not only around the lower Connecticut River Valley, but you also see it around Milford, Massachusetts, and the 495 belt, predominantly south of the Mass Turnpike. So you say, well, why then do I think things may strengthen in Essex County? Notice there is a little finger of increased instability that goes up through Essex County. So while I wouldn't bet the farm on it, I do think that certainly there is the potential that even though around Mount Vernon, Milford, and Derry, New Hampshire, there's a little bit of a lull in some of the energy right there, I still think that these may be able to find some life as they head toward the coastal plain and the Merrimack River Valley. So we'll watch that. But you can also see those storms coming out of western Mass and that new warning that we just talked about that's across Worcester County. That's going to keep dropping east-southeast, and it's coming into an area of increased thunderstorm action as well. So actually in Connecticut, some of these storms may expand because of the kind of well of thunderstorm energy showing up there. Timing on that is going to be about 6 p.m. when you get into far northern Connecticut and 9 p.m. when you get into far southern Connecticut. Here's the storm we've been tracking coming out of Laconia into Alton, New Hampshire. Notice that you're not done with the energy yet around Sanford, Maine. You just had a downpour come through, but this storm certainly may hold together as it comes across Alton, and that means Sanford. I want you to be on guard. Saco, Wells, if you're at the beach, we're going to watch this. You're not getting off the beach yet necessarily, although I will say you've got some lightning that already has driven folks from the beach when you get around Biddeford Pool, and you've got more that's coming in. So certainly from Biddeford Pool to Camp Ellis to Old Orchard, with lightning strikes out over the ocean and more coming from the west, we're inside. But when you get down around Wells, when you get to around Moody, you've got a quick downpour trying to go over a Gunquit. Right now, no lightning with that. But again, going to watch. You can see there's the big show coming out of Laconia and continuing to move east. For those of you that say, all right, so what about the forecast on how this is all going to go? Well, look, I think by the time we get to 7 p.m., the Boston area is under the gun. But Janet had asked, what about the split that looks like it's developing? And I had said, well, the high-resolution guidance did a really good job with that. And you can see what I mean there. When you get around the suburbs north of Boston, there's the Essex County stuff I was talking about, right? Here's some of the Metro West. Remember, we looked at the thunderstorm energy near and south of the Mass Pike. It is possible, again, please don't don't go gallivanting outside, because Matt Noyes told me we weren't going to get anything northwest of Boston. But it is possible in some of the suburbs northwest of Boston, like, for example, a Waltham or a Burlington, it's possible that you get less action. But notice, even as we get toward, even 7:30, and it may come sooner than that, it may be more like 7 to 7:30, you do try to fill some of it in. And that's why I say you don't want to go betting on the fact that there may be holes in here. If you get a hole and you avoid it, congratulations, you haven't had to worry about it. Other than that, though, we need to be on guard. We get a severe thunderstorm watch that's in effect all the way through 9 p.m. for favorable conditions for damaging storms. So not one of those things where we want to play chicken necessarily with nature because of what the guidance happens to show. But it's interesting to note. Notice as we get toward about 9:30 or so, a lot of this action has moved over or cleared the Cape. And then if you get anything else this evening across northern Vermont, and it is possible you'll get another thunderstorm, chances are very good it's not going to be severe as it comes through. One of the things we've had concern over lately has been flash flooding. You say, do we need to worry about anything with that? Well, we do have rain rates that if you line it up with the legend at the top are on the order of 1 inch per hour, right? But having said that, notice everything keeps moving. So it comes in, it goes out. I do not think this is a big flash flood event for us here today or this evening across a lot of New England. So here's that bigger view again. Let me get it set up in a spot where we can kind of see everybody who's under the gun right now. And that would include from central New Hampshire all the way down to western and central Massachusetts, where a severe thunderstorm warning was most recently issued for southern Worcester County. With that, we'll go back to a radar analysis, and then I'll take the time to check out the chat again. If you're just joining us, welcome aboard. This is 1 degree outside. I'm meteorologist Matt Noyes. You saw me for about 25 years on NBC and NECN, which was a joy and pleasure, but it's been an equal joy and pleasure launching our own weather network for all of New England. And we are now the only digital weather network for all of New England, from northern Maine to southern Connecticut. Danielle and I take that responsibility very seriously, and so we want to make sure that when there is significant action at every chance that we have, we bring you the updates along the way. So here's that severe thunderstorm warning now that's in effect across southern Worcester County. That'll be up until 6 p.m. with the storm coming out of Belchertown. You're going to find that coming into Brookfield and Warren, and it's going to keep moving east-southeast. Sturbridge is in the path of the storm. Charlton, most certainly. This thing is coming right north of the Mass Turnpike, but eventually it will cross the Turnpike as it comes toward Brimfield. Getting smacked in Westfield, tons of lightning right now at the I-90 and 91 interchange. Southwick is into this as well. There is the potential for damaging wind at the core of this, along with hail as it comes through. This is bleeding over the state line from Granby to Enfield. You're going to be into this. Winds or locks, you'll end up picking up on this too, for the exact reason we talked about when we looked at the thunderstorm energy. It's available, and the storm will be eager to build to the south as a result. While we're here, let's go ahead and take a storm relative velocity scan. Still seeing a broad rotation to the storm. What that means is it is a self-sustaining, broadly rotating thunderstorm. Broad rotation is okay. And one thing a lot of folks don't realize is it's pretty normal and pretty usual for a relatively strong storm. It does help to promote the sustained presence of gusty downburst straight line wind. If you see it tighten at the center, that's when the concern for tornadic development happens. Not seeing that yet. Certainly seeing no indication of that either when we come into the storm that's just coming out of Belchertown and in toward Brookfield and Palmer. That one looks like it is just a straight line wind threat as well. So that's the update on that storm. I do want to make sure, though, that we get you back up to central New Hampshire and southern New Hampshire. Deerfield has just received the downpour with thunder and lightning. It's moving east. It's headed out toward Durham and Dover. Elliott, Maine will be up next on that. It is not severe at this time. We do, however, have a new extension of the severe thunderstorm warning. We had told you, Alton, that you were going to be next. Farmington, Milton, and Wakefield. You're in the path of this one as well. Wakefield will be on the northern side. It's highly unlikely you'll get wind damage out of it in Wakefield. It's more likely at Alton and New Durham. Let's see if we can swing over to the Gray Maine radar and get a good view on what's going on in the center of the storm. Yep, at this point, not seeing anything that's overwhelming on a strong rotation that would be tight enough to warrant tornado concern, but that doesn't have to be the case. As we've proven today at Falmouth Foreside in southern Maine, just north of Portland, we had significant damage that was done there. That significant damage was as a result of what was very strong wind. Now, whether or not that was a brief tornado touchdown or not, honestly, the radar signature was very close. and it's possible that it was, but either way, we were getting a 70-mile-per-hour radar signature on the storm winds coming out of that. You say, well, what is it on this stuff that's coming into Alton? Let's take a look together, and you'll see it's nothing near that same kind of speed that we saw out of the storm earlier in Maine. So this would be a more isolated type of damaging wind event, but it certainly is a possibility for us. Brand new severe thunderstorm warning issued now for Kennebunk. Let's get to the gray Maine velocity scan on this. Okay, so this is one you've got to watch carefully now. This is one that just has spun up very recently, but this now we are seeing some indication here as the storm comes toward Kennebunk, Arundel, and Kennebunkport, headed off toward Cape Porpoise, that it is trying to get some tightening of rotation going on here over Wells Branch. Again, the overall motion on the storm is about due east. That means that Kennebunk is going to be next here. So I want you to take this warning, all the warnings, seriously, but this one in particular, I'd like you to take this warning quite seriously. Let's get tucked indoors. One of the reasons I looked right away when I saw that that storm was coming east and warned on is because it's the same thing I guarantee you the Weather Service is looking at, which is that there is some indication here that the storm is trying to loop around itself. This tells you that somewhere at the center, you've got a storm rotation that's enough to start pulling the moisture around the south side of the storm. So at this point, I think what we need to do is take this severe thunderstorm warning as one that certainly has the potential to produce some damaging wind. We want to be tucked indoors away from windows in Kennebunk, Kennebunk Landing, Arundel, Maine, down to Kennebunkport. This is going to be one that we're going to watch really carefully, and I'm going to continue to keep you posted on, because even though there's not a lot of lightning, it's not going to be the most severe lightning show you've ever seen. It's actually more like occasional lightning with this one. You have to watch that very carefully on that rotation. You're still seeing some indication here that you've got a little bit of what we call weak gate-to-gate shear. This is where you have weak kind of abutting of wind moving in different directions. Again, okay, there's the latest scan. Hasn't gone away yet, right? Let's go ahead and zoom in. Let's get street level for you. So this is York Street, all right? So essentially, again, if I come out to give you a view, this is Kennebunk, all right? So York Street coming out of Kennebunk, all right, is one of the main thoroughfares for us, Route 1, and you've got this area of at least kind of wind that is what we call gate to gate. It is moving in different directions, very close to itself here over York Street. This is going to come over Brown Street and Sea Road. This will continue to move off to the east, and it looks like Heath Road would be up next. Port Road, Kennebunk Landing. We want to be tucked at the lowest level of the home on this one as this comes in, only because of the fact that we're seeing this kind of a rotation, which again is not looking strong enough imminently for tornado development, but certainly it's trying to trend in that direction. What I'm going to be watching really carefully is whether or not we see this area of stronger wind between Post Road and Wells Road over Route 1, and this area of stronger wind that's coming back over Harrisecond Road. If these two start to kind of pinwheel around each other, then we've got a more serious issue that's developing here. So again, for a more standard look at the radar, I can pull you over. It's interesting because when you look at it at first, you say, I'm not under the core of the storm. That's true, but you are getting the core of the storm wrapping around in a very, very well-defined notch. This is a bit of a weak, what we would call hook echo, trying to develop here. The one thing that I think is helping us is the fact that it is not a tremendously strong updraft in the storm. So, in other words, the storm is lacking the kind of strength that usually would produce a tornadic development. And that's why I think you probably haven't seen the trigger being pulled yet on a tornado warning. You've got a severe thunderstorm warning, but that is definitely a cover us type of warning where there's concern, and we'll watch that one carefully. So I do want you in those areas we talked about over Route 1 from Kennebunk to Kennebunkport and Arundel. I want you to be indoors with this one as it comes by, and I want you to stay here with me because I'm going to keep you updated on what's going on with that. Storm into Alton now. You've got a lot of lightning with this one, so that's going to be the next one that we're going to be watching carefully. Want to check the chat? I always invite you to contribute here in the chat. I think it's important that we can kind of go back and forth with each other. It's not about me talking the whole time. When we start to see things like that in Kennebunkport, when we start to see some sort of rotation, I am going to go a little bit longer and tell you what's happening with that. But I also want you to chime in. If you're watching on our live stream, which is at livestream.1degreeoutside.com, I'm going to check in. Let's see, Westfield. We've got a report from Danielle says we've got a report from Westfield gusting 40 to 50, and that is with that storm that just looked through. And that's good to know. Thanks, Danielle. Appreciate you letting us know about that. Ed, the storm will hit Plastow. We'll get to that in just 1 second for you. I'll let you know. Timmy on deck and ready at the Merrimack River in Haverhill. Timmy Slavitt, my first boss, Haverhill Harbor Master, and boy, what a great first job, Timmy. Thank you for all the education you gave me on Merrimack Valley weather and everything about the river. Hang on, we talked about the Merrimack Valley a short time ago. We're at that time of the season, as you know, Tim, where we tend to get a little bit more moisture, a little bit more energy off the river there, trying to trap in some of that higher dew point air. So we may feed those storms just as they come over Essex County. Let me go ahead and zoom the view out just a bit while I continue to answer some of these chat questions. I also want to shift the view. We haven't taken care of you in a couple of minutes now down around southern New England, so let's get you in there. Here's that storm at Westfield that Danielle was telling us about. No surprise, right? We had told you that Windsor Locks running into northeast Connecticut was going to end up likely getting a severe thunderstorm warning extension as the storms build into that wealth of thunderstorm energy. Here's the storms. Remember, we had talked about maybe there was a split trying to develop northwest of Boston. Don't bet the farm on it. You got a new downpour trying to take off west of Leominster coming along Route 2. So we're going to watch that one very carefully as well. National Weather Service Skywarn Spotter Network saying damage in Belchertown. They're coming through with specifics for us shortly. But damage has been done in Belchertown, Mass. with that storm now that is over West Brookfield, Warren, Ware, and Palmer. This one's heading in towards Sturbridge and Charlton next. So along the Mass Turnpike corridor, all the way down to the Connecticut border and beyond, we're going to be ready for wind damage. We have a history of wind damage done with each of the cores of the storm. There is no wind damage going on right now, Holyoke to Ludlow. You've got a split that's happening there. So you're going to have to be on either one of those storm cores to deal with that. When and where are you going to get that? Let me go ahead and show you. I will shift the view a little bit so I have a little bit more room to work with. Here we go. Let's draw out your first kind of leading edge core, and we're going to bring that out. Average speed has been about 32, 33 miles an hour. So on its current trajectory, we're likely talking about arrival times, as you see right there on your screen. If you're watching on your phone, you can tilt it over into landscape mode, at least that sideways mode. You'll be able to see it a little bit bigger and a little bit better. But nonetheless, Sturbridge, about 6 o'clock or so, we should find it moving in. I think by the time we get to 6:17, Dudley will be into it. Webster at 6:19. Now, we're going outside of the severe thunderstorm warning area here, right? We're talking about when you get into Douglas and Uxbridge, you're not under that severe thunderstorm warning yet, but you are in at least the kind of feet of the storm that's starting to come in here. Next one is down to the south. Let's go ahead and shift the view and tell you what's going on in Connecticut. We have had so many of you jumping on board from Connecticut with our updates when we do these severe weather updates. Really appreciate that you're on board. Appreciate all of the updates and reports that you deliver. And here is what we're talking about. I'm going to shift this a little bit farther south on it. There we go. So here's your towns and times coming into Connecticut. I'll let you get a feel for those, but if you are listening to us instead of watching us, I will also read some of them off. I think we're talking about East Longmeadow, Mass. at about 5:43, Windsor Locks, Connecticut at 5:46. 6:05 at a South Windsor, Tolland at about 6:10, Coventry, Connecticut, 6:24, Storrs, Connecticut, 6:25, and in Willimantic, Connecticut, about 6:37. So these are your arrival times on storms that now have a history of producing wind damage across portions of central and western Massachusetts as they continue to move down to the south and east. Let me get back to the chat and just see what you've got for us here on chat. And also, let me get back up. We put folks in Kennebunk on high alert. Kennebunkport, you're under the center of the storm. Let's go ahead and take care of that first. Then we'll go back over to the chat again. So here we go. Good. Kennebunkport, good news for you here. We've seen a weakening of that rotation, that gate-to-gate shear that we were watching. That wind that was abutting up against itself is no longer nearly as strong. And so now if we go over to the regular radar scan, notice what else has happened here. We've seen a collapse of what was that developing hook echo. It was right here at the center. This was the spot. It's now coming just north of Four Corners, but it is weakened. There is still kind of this leftover vestige of it. So we know certainly it was there. We were watching it together. I love seeing seeing it collapsing like this, that is a great thing to see. And then to back that up with our storm velocity radar and not see that gate-to-gate shear anymore is wonderful. We'll still take the storm seriously. If we look at 1 hour shear, you can see where it started to ramp up a little bit as it picked up that kind of yellow coloring coming over Kennebunk, but now going back down again, which is fantastic news for us. The hail was holding together pretty well into West Kennebunk, but even that hail now has come down quite a bit. So feel pretty confident in saying folks at Kennebunk Landing, folks that we were talking about at York Street or Route 1, running over to Sea Road, you're going to be in the clear here. That's fantastic. We're going to watch this carefully as it comes over Kennebunk and Cape Porpoise to make sure it doesn't cycle back up again. But at this point, I really like what I'm seeing with that. Let's go farther to the north and west. Here's the storm coming out of Alton into Farmington. So now Milton, you'll be up next, coming over 109. Wakefield and Wolfboro on the north side of the storm. And in Wolfboro, you're getting some rain, a little bit of lightning just south of you on 109, actually down by 28. But at this point, we're not talking about epic lightning in someplace like Wolfboro. I say almost a run-of-the-mill thunderstorm for you, but it is quite a light show over 28 in Alton and New Durham. And this is the one that continues to head off to the east. You've got a severe thunderstorm warning. You're sheltered indoors as the storm comes in. Let's get your leading edge towns and times on this. We'll take you from the front edge of what has been the core of the strongest rain, lightning, and some embedded strong wind capable of at least some damage being done. Towns and times, if you can't see them because you're listening instead or you're watching on a small screen, no problem. We'll take care of you. It's going to come in toward Farmington, New Hampshire at about 5:47, cross the state line, come into Acton, Maine at 6:03, Lebanon, Maine about 6:07 or so. Sanford about 6:14 as arrival time on the core of this stuff for you. Kennebunk, it's going to be a second hit for you. Next one coming in from the west. And this next one actually has more lightning with it than what you just had. We were nervous on that rotating wind for a while out of the one over you in Kennebunk. But the next one may produce more cloud-to-ground lightning in Arundel about 6:43 on your second arrival. Again, you're dealing with one, if I slide it out of the way, right now in Kennebunk and Arundel. But you'll get a second storm that'll come in on top of you. So something to be aware of there, certainly. Let me see if I can zoom the view out a little bit again for us here. Swing us back down to the Taunton radar so that you can see it a little bit clearer in the storms that are coming into Connecticut. Again, we cover all of New England here at 1 Degree Outside Weather Network. We are now the only digital media network doing that, so we want to make sure that we take good care of you, but also take pauses to look at the chat and see what you have to say. All right, so Kate, thank you for the compliment. Daniel, so even though there is increased energy in southern Metro West, it just aren't storms tracking that way. Daniel, if you're talking about southern Metro West around Boston, I wouldn't say that. I think that when we get near and south of the Mass Turnpike, some of these storms are going to try and hold together pretty decently, especially when you get perhaps down around the Attleboro area. You've got more trying to pop off near Route 2. So I don't call any of these dead with the amount of energy that we have that's in place right now. Skywarn Spotter Network, by the way, just letting us know, Belchertown, Massachusetts, Turkey Hill Road, and Chauncey Walker Street, Tree Down. Area of 418 Chauncey Walker Street, Tree Down, 9 Chauncey Walker Street. So hit hard on that street. Another tree down, power lines down around 231 Summer Street, and tree down on a car in the area of 30 Shaw Road. Damage reports coming in out of Granby, Massachusetts now as well. So these storms in western and central Massachusetts mean business as they continue to come off to the south and east and push not only into Connecticut, but along and south of the Mass Turnpike corridor. Scotty, confirming Deerfield just had a downpour with thunder. Downpour in Kennebunk, thank you very much. Mary Jo, appreciate it. Karen, Tingsboro at all, Matt? Yeah, so Karen, you can see if I've still got that radar up here for you. You got storms northwest of Nashua. They're dropping southeast. Give them an hour. They're going to try and be on top of you, all right? You've also got more just to your south developing on Route 2 that would be sooner than that, but they may stay just south of you. So, no, you're not in the clear yet. We're going to give this an hour, hour 15 on that stuff coming in from the northwest to clear you. Sitting by the pool in Kensington, watching you in the sky. Thanks, Sheila. Appreciate it. It's an honor to be part of your pool routine, and it's what I love about that Danielle and I started this digital first weather network. We can go everywhere you go. You can have us on in the car and listen to us. Almost like a podcast if you wanted to, if you're driving. You can let family and friends know that if they're on the beach or on the boat, just download the 1 Degree Outside weather app, scroll to the bottom of the homepage, and you'll be able to tap the live stream and tune in. How's New Durham looking right now? Lots of lightning strikes. Yep, New Durham has no concern with rotating wind at this point. There is the potential that you end up with a little isolated pocket of damaging straight line wind. Mostly this is going to be torrential rain, the small hail, and frequent cloud-to-ground lightning, which, of course, is dangerous in and of itself, right? So we're sheltered indoors as this one comes through. Mopar Nick, greetings from Ashby, Mass. Thank you. Greetings to you as well. Keep us posted on what's going on with you. Let's see. You have a theory, it says Adam, that Mount Wachusett breaks up storms heading west to the Leominster area. Any validity to that? Yes, Adam, absolutely, but it depends on the wind direction. So it depends entirely on whether or not, if you've got more of a kind of a south-southwesterly wind, then that kind of negates that. But if you've got a wind that comes over the top of Wachusett, yes, that can happen on a micro scale. Not every time, but it certainly can. Greg says, hi, Matt. Thanks again. How about Lee Durham? All right, we'll take another zoom into you. You're getting that stuff right now, but we'll show you in just a second. Sarah, my son and friends are headed to York to surf. Do it about 6:30. All right, we'll take care of you. We'll dive into that here in just a second as well. Checking the other chat that's over right at our livestream.onedegreeoutside.com homepage. Vermont, the rain has ended. The sunlight is casting shadows. An inch of rain in 45 minutes, says Ann. Used to live in Groveland, so love hearing the names Matt's saying. All right, you're in Newfane, Vermont now. And so happy that we can cover everybody in New England. It's a true honor, and I'm really glad that you're tuning in from Newfane. New Britain, Connecticut. All right, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being in. A lot of folks here that chime in from Connecticut. All right, sounds like you guys would like a little bit of another analysis, judging by some of the questions coming in, particularly from southeast New Hampshire. So that's where we're headed. There's that core of the storm just coming out of Barrington now. This one's got thunder and lightning, but there's much more in the way of cloud-to-ground lightning coming into Farmington, heading into Lebanon, Maine. So the core of that storm going to continue to move off to the east, and Lebanon about 6:16. Again, you've already got the rain trying to get in on top of you. So you're getting the big fat drops coming down here and there. It's going to pick up over the next 15 minutes or so, but nonetheless, by the time we get about 6:16, you're into the heart of that thing. So we go downhill from here. I almost don't even want to use that automated track out of Barrington because you're already into it now, so far ahead of it. I mean, you can see this is extending out through Elliott. Kittery's on the south side. You'll probably get a downpour in Kittery. You can see that stuff coming out of Lee and Durham off Route 125 and 4. That's likely to come right smack dab over Kittery. If you're watching from Portsmouth, you'll probably get into that as well. Farther to the north, there's Agunquit, Wells, Kennebunk, right? Let's zoom in a little bit more for you. And here's that Route 1 corridor coming down through Walnut Hill, through Cape Nettic, and there's York. There's Surf Central. All right, look, tell them if they're there now or they're there. Oh, they're going to get there 6:30, you said. They're going to have to wait for the lightning to go by. You've got this whole cluster that goes through. They might get there right on the back edge of this thing, or they might be slowed down on the highway getting there. But just let them know that you were watching us here at 1 Degree Outside, and tell them there is more coming in out of Antrim, Loudon, Barnstead. And if they can get our app, honestly, and that's not like a self-promotion thing, if they get the app, just tell them, I know folks don't like to turn on location and notification. Please, for our app, turn it on. And the reason I say that, you can get the lightning notifications if there's lightning strikes within about 10 or 11 miles. That's very helpful. And Danielle and I, look, we put together the app ourselves. We have zero interest in your personal data, which there's a whole story with that. But bottom line is that we don't take your data. And a lot of times advertisers and sponsors like it if folks take your data because they can find out what's going on and who's actually watching. So we don't do that. We don't do that. Makes the road a little bit harder on a business standpoint, but that's our thing. The only thing we get from you is your location, and so that we can make sure that we get the updates out when they need to be on. And we do keep track of location overall, so we know who's using the app. That's all we're looking at, is to see, is it getting used more in Boston, Hartford, things of that nature. Nothing personal at all. All right, here we go. Storm warnings are still up. When you come around Southbridge and Sturbridge, you're still waiting on it, though. You say, is this coming in anytime soon? Yeah, absolutely. But I do want to put one little qualifier here. We talked about this earlier. The damaging wind is going to be really confined to small pockets in here. I mean, when you get some of that heavier downpour that's coming over Palmer right now at Route 90, that's going to come into West Brimfield. That may cause a little pocket of damaging wind. Here's Brookfield and the Brookfield Mobile Home Park, and you know, you might get enough of a core of damaging wind to survive there too. But at this point, we're not looking at a big, broad, widespread wind damage. What's much more concerning is in Connecticut coming out of Enfield. I mean, this is just a wall of lightning that's coming in right now. Severe thunderstorm warning continues until 6:30 for Hartford County. You've got two different areas that are kind of the course of the storms here. Let me zoom out so I can give you a little bit better idea on towns and times out of this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that. Oh, hey, wrong thing. Sorry about that. I do make mistakes. We're going to take the leading edge to this core, all right, which is now coming through Enfield and Windsor locks. I'm going to bring it off on its average trajectory to the southeast. I got to zoom it out more. Don't take those towns and times yet because I need to get 32, 33 miles an hour on the average motion of the storm for you. There we go. Let's do it again. Perfect. All right, so here we go. Let's plot out where that core of damaging wind is possible, and that is coming through Ellington, through Tolland, through Storrs, through Coventry, and then down to Windham along Route 6, and that is all over the course of about the next hour or so, all right? The other area that we're going to watch is the one that's coming down into Granby, Connecticut right now. Let's go ahead and draw this one out. It goes down to Barkhamsted. That one also is going off to the east-southeast, and we got to be a little bit careful, only because we don't know how the kind of construct of the storm will change over the next hour, right? The pockets of wind damage may be a little bit different than they are now, but generally you can see those times and towns that show up here. So that Manchester, Connecticut is about 6:30 this evening, Andover, Connecticut about 6:44, and Columbia about 6:52. And that's why I said earlier when we started the stream that it was about 6 p.m. on a far northern Connecticut arrival, but about 9 p.m. on a far southern Connecticut arrival. Here's some of those storms that are ramping up along Route 2 again, literally building along the Route 2 corridor. They're going to drop right down into Lancaster. Now, there is thunder and lightning with this. There's nothing damaging yet, but there is thunder and lightning and downpours with it. Again, flash flooding not expected, but you can see the next storm that's coming east making its way toward Holden, and that'll come into Boylston. They're almost on a collision course, aren't they, for Clinton and Boylston? So you're going to get these storms kind of coming together. And if you don't believe it, I can show you the last 15 minutes. There you go. You can see them. They're kind of paralleling each other and trying to build in toward the center here. So we'll see where they actually fill in. But either way, that whole kind of area from essentially from Chelmsford south along 495 all the way down to Westboro and beyond, you're going to be on guard for these storms as they come in on top of you. Let's go to the most current image. Let's take you back up into New Hampshire. Sandown, you've got a pretty good downpour with thunder and lightning. Chester's on the north side. Kingston and Hampstead, you're going to be up next. Plastow, you're going to get the rumbles going just to your north, but probably you get nothing more than maybe a little bit of rain on the north side of Plastow. But really, it's Danville going to bear the brunt of that. That is not a damaging storm at this point. We'll keep an eye on it for you. Notice it's also not the last one. So if you're watching us, let's say from Lake Massabesic, and you're wondering if you can get the boat back out, you can see the big cloud down to your south over Chester with the thunder and lightning, right? But the other problem is, look what's coming to the west. So Auburn, Manchester, you've got this stuff coming off 202, and there's a good wall of lightning with that out of Antrim. So no, we're not going back out on the boat on Massabesic, unfortunately. We've got the storms coming back in, and we got to be safe about that. All right, here we go, coming into southern Maine now out of Somersworth. This is going to make its way straight toward Ogunquit. Center of the storm now is just crossing the state line, coming across 236. So we'll keep an eye on that for you. All right, let's see. What do we have here? Enfield. All right, so if we zoom the view back out a little bit, we do have a report out of the Skywarn spotter network of, I'm going to assume, let's just confirm what we're doing here before I give you misinformation. And while we're doing it, let's go back over to storm relative velocity. All right, so we're starting to get some squirrely signatures here in terms of the radar, and this is always something you got to watch this carefully. Let's get back over. So there's not a lot of updraft here, which is good, because when we look at shear, you can see there's definitely an area of increased shear coming over 202 between Rochester and Barrington, essentially south side of Rochester, but you don't see a lot of strong, storm energy, I guess you could say. Basically, the meteorological term is updraft. You don't see a real strong updraft there, which is good. It means that even if you've got rotation in the wind field, you're not necessarily picking up what would be a strong rotation to produce a funnel, a tornado in that spot. So that's what I'm looking at there. You get farther to the north, and when you get over Farmington, it's mostly just a thunder and lightning show. Again, getting a little squirrely in spots where you see the reds and the greens coming together, and I'll show you that is over Rochester and coming in on Somersworth now. So there's a bunch of areas in here that we need to watch really carefully. Here's the latest scan. It comes in every 60 seconds. So again, at this point, not seeing anything that's overwhelming in terms of a concern for tornadic development, but I keep going back and forth. Yeah, keep going back and forth to the regular radar reflectivity, because I want to make sure that we don't get rotation tucked under an updraft. That would change the game for us. Berwick about 6 on the core of the storm. South Berwick 606. And Ogunquit about 624 on the core of the storm. You're going to get rain and thunder out ahead of it. If you're just joining us, thanks for being here. This is the 1 Degree Outside Weather Network, the only digital weather network covering all of New England. And we are not just doing a broadcast. So if you're watching from your cell phone, if you're watching from your computer, we are not just simply broadcasting. We are doing an interaction. We have a chat that's a part of this. You may be watching us on X or Twitter. You can comment there. We will see that. Facebook, same deal. We'll see it. YouTube, Twitch, we will see it. Right at livestream.onedegreeoutside.com, we will see that. We see all those chats. So I'm going to take a moment to look at the chat now and see what we have that's coming in from you. Appreciate everybody who's been kind of chiming in. All right, so let's see. Looking very ominous in North Salem, Mass. Yes, you've got some time. You've got, I would say, goodness, North Salem, Mass. You're talking about what really is kind of a broken line of storms that's moving in, but it should make it all the way through as it continues to run from west to east. There's going to be some holes in it. You can see those holes over the Route 2 corridor. But having said that, I don't think there's a lot of folks that don't get anything. I think there's very few. There'll be some, but not many. Looks like Mattapoisett a miss. Suzanne, I know we had that really rough night together. I don't know if you were part of the live stream for that a while back. And Mattapoisett was hit pretty hard, right? Let's not totally write it off yet. It does look like things weaken as they come into Mattapoisett, but if you're planning to go out to the water, if you're planning for a night, an evening out, just keep in mind that by the time we get to 9 o'clock or so, maybe a little sooner, but probably close to 9, some of that stuff is going to be arriving in from the north and west. And it should be weakening, but I'm not sure it's going to go away entirely for you. Linda in the Mount Washington Valley. I remember you, Linda, from the last live stream when you guys are getting hit up there. Thank you so much for chiming in, being part of this. Yeah, you did get dodged this time around for the most part. Just got some of that heavy rain, a couple rumbles, right? Chris, Agawam, Mass. Good storm right now. Seems to have weakened. It has weakened just a little bit. That's right. Thunder 9 to 12 miles away in Rochester, says Tom. Light wind out of the east-northeast at 2. Thank you. And let's see. Jose, I always encourage people who are non-weather aware to always download a good weather app and learn how to read the different radars. That's right. It's a good idea, Jose. And one of the things with our weather app is if you get it and you use that radar tab, we always encourage you to use past plus future mode. And that's where you're able to actually see where the storms have been, where they are, and where they're going. So if you're watching on the app right now, you certainly can try that out. Past plus future mode. And then the other thing is if you go into the 3 little dots and you click overlay, turn on the storm tracks. They're really powerful in terms of giving you a little bit of information. Yeah, right over your head in Sandown. I know it is, Evan. And again, that's a non-severe storm right now for you. But that is certainly still a significant, kind of rumble of thunder and downpour that's coming through right now. So I think we've hit all of the chat. I don't think I've missed anybody. And if I have, I apologize. Hit me up again. But let's get back over to the radar analysis and show you a little bit more of what's going on. And we've got 2 areas that are real strong right now. One's in northern Connecticut. The other is in southern Maine and southeast New Hampshire. I want to get to southern Maine, southeast New Hampshire, because this has been the area where the atmosphere has been most conducive to try to get some rotation inside the storm. We're still seeing a broad scale rotation showing up here. I'm looking at the view out of Taunton, Massachusetts right now, and I'll shift it to Gray, Maine in a moment. But you're seeing a shear axis here. What that means is Yes, the wind is going in one direction and another, but you've got a separation between it. So that can produce straight line damaging wind. It's rare unless it gets together, which it can. Unless it gets together, you don't usually see tornadic development. You can see a little bit of broad but fairly weak rotation showing up heading toward Dover right now. Not overly concerned about that. And then just outside of North Berwick. So why don't we go ahead and shift the view now over to the gray main radar. And if you see the same areas light up, you get a little concerned. So again, same thing, shear axis coming in toward Barrington and Rochester. A little more concern there over that one headed toward Dover. We'll take a closer look. And again, not a whole lot northwest of North Berwick to be concerned about. So why don't we go into this one that's by Dover right now? And again, this is a storm that if we switch back over to the regular radar, it's not a very strong updraft. Although, interestingly, if I switch to the Taunton radar, it looks a little bit stronger and a little worse, right? But nonetheless, the issue here is that if we go over to the storm relative velocity, you do have at least this attempt for the rotation to tighten a bit. I'll tell you right now, though, it's fairly weak. And the way I can prove that to you is by analyzing the wind speed. You're running about 20 to 25 miles per hour either side of that. So you're going to need to see that increase markedly and continue to tighten up in order for me to be concerned about something beyond the potential of a gusty wind that comes through. And at this point, I think that literally is all you're talking about. If you are watching us from Lake Winnipesaukee, we've covered you as the storms came through Alton, as the lightning and the rain came through Wolfboro. You're now back behind this thing, and I don't think you've got much more to worry about here. One of the things that we can do is we can zoom the radar out a little bit more. Now, the radar beam out of Gray Main eventually runs out when you get far enough to the north. So one thing I can do is I can put us over to a U.S. composite so we can see farther. But notice there's not much to speak of here. The air has already turned much less favorable for storms, and that's coming in from the northwest. So Winnipesaukee, as these storms go off to your south and east, I think you're good. I think if you wanted to get back out on the water, frankly, you're good to do that as well. Even though that severe thunderstorm watch is up until 9 p.m., what I'm telling you is most of the action is going to be down to your south. In Connecticut and in Massachusetts, you can see we've got several areas, but right now a lot of this is just downpours with some thunder and lightning from Route 2 down through Worcester. It's in Connecticut where we showed you towns and times a short time ago, but this is where you've got your greatest damaging wind threat that's coming in. Let's do one more towns and times, and then I see a few more things coming on the chat, so I'll take another moment to interact with you, and we can answer some questions and take a look at what's going on. So again, on its current trajectory, these do increase in motion speed a little bit. We had them at 32, 33. I'm willing to bet they'll go 35, 36 now as they build southeast. So that's going to be one of the areas that I think we're going to be ready to kind of see the storms pick up some speed. Looks like I didn't get my towns and times like I was hoping for there. So let me do that one more time for you. There we go. All right. Yeah, it's because there's so many. All right. So here we go. Connecticut. You've got stores. It's still about 623. I think last update we had told you 624. So we haven't changed that too much, have we? I sped it up just a little bit because, as I mentioned, they tend to speed up a little into the warmth and humidity. We get to Columbia, Connecticut at 632. Willimantic at 636. Canterbury about 649. Franklin, Connecticut 650. And then Moosop about 652. So those are your towns and times on that. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to take that away for a moment. I'm going to give you a view that'll cover everybody from New Hampshire and Maine all the way down into Connecticut. So you can watch that radar update live on the screen, okay? And I'm going to answer some of your chats as well while we do that. So again, if you're just joining us here at 1 Degree Outside Weather Network, we are the only digital network covering all of New England's weather from northern Maine to southern Connecticut. And we've gone up for the live stream here because of the number of storms that were coming in, and some of them quite strong in spots when we came up, and still strong now in the areas that we looked at. Watching on X and Twitter, says Greg, good. I'm glad that you're watching, and thank you to the nearly 1,000 of you that are currently watching on Twitter or X. Appreciate you being here, and please feel free to chime in. I can see all of your comments as you leave them here on social media. Heavy rain in Rochester, New Hampshire, says Tom. Tom's chiming in on YouTube, where we're also streaming live right now. 0.31 inches of rain in Rochester, says Tom. Thank you for showing north of Worcester County showers. Got the ribs out of the smoker just in time to stay dry. Nurse B, I got to tell you, that's why we do this. That is exactly why we started 1 Degree Outside. You can take us with you and hopefully we can help you out just like that. On the moments that we're not live streaming, because we don't live stream for every thunderstorm in New England, just keep in mind, have our notifications turned on in the app, all of them, because you've got lightning notifications, but you've got precipitation notifications that alert you when heavy rain is nearby as well. All right, Daniel, what's the purpose of using blocks to represent opposite or turning winds? Why isn't it smoothed out? Daniel, what a great question. So, look, bottom line, without getting too bogged down, because folks are watching for storm coverage, but look, you're working with data that is it comes in pixels. All right, it comes in pixels. So you work with computers and pixels. That's it. So you get pixelation that happens. We could smooth it. I don't want to smooth it. There is a smoothing feature. I could turn it on, but if I smooth it, I lose data. And then I'm not as accurate. I can't get right down to the street level if I smooth it that way. A lot of times you'll see that on TV stations, they'll smooth it because it's a prettier presentation. I don't like to do that when I don't have to, because then I'm not as accurate, and I really do want to be street level. Don asks, are these going to hit Hartford? Yes, they are. They're coming in on you momentarily. We'll do another radar analysis in a minute, but yes is the answer to that. Chris, your wife just posted a very beautiful double rainbow from Nick Morganelli on X. All right, excellent. Nick Morganelli, a meteorologist who I worked with for a long time when he was doing some quite a bit of work for us at NECN, and that was wonderful. And Nick is a fixture in Western Massachusetts, and so we're so happy to be hearing from. And that's the thing, starting as we hear from meteorologists, all meteorologists, former, current. It's wonderful. It's a coming together of weather, and it's really great. Clouds have arrived to Middleborough. Thank you very much, D6 Bethany. Appreciate hearing from you there. Let's go ahead and just one last check of the chat over that's on our livestream.onedegreeoutside.com page to make sure I haven't missed anybody there. Waiting on a refresh, so let's go ahead and we'll get into the, let's see. Hi, Matt, thanks for all this. Thoughts on storms holding up inside Route 128, asked Nicole. Nicole, let's go ahead and dive in it for everybody. You ready? Let's go ahead. We're going to go in and we're going to take a little look. First thing I'll do is just give you the overview here. So you've got a couple of different areas that we're looking at that are ongoing for storms. One is basically right now and ongoing over southern Maine, York, Ogunquit. You're still feeding more in out of New Hampshire. Watching the wind inside those storms very carefully to make sure we don't get any type of strong rotation that develops. So far, it hasn't been overly strong with this particular round. Earlier in Falmouth Foreside, we had some really strong wind. Whether it rotated or not was down to the wire, but nonetheless, that was a scary one earlier. Caused a lot of damage in Falmouth. Meanwhile, in Falmouth, Maine, here's the next round of storms. Here's the thing: this is dropping off to the east or east-southeast. Okay, so this is headed to the beaches from Seabrook and Salisbury to Plum Island eventually. All right, and then, yes, Merrimack Valley is going to get into this too. Now, it's still probably over an hour away, or about an hour away, from someplace like Ipswich. But you can see it's already coming in on someplace like Seabrook, not far away anyway, as it comes in. Then you've got this stuff for the 128 corridor that's coming out of central Mass. Now, that's not severe, but it is dropping off to the east. And essentially that means the Boston Metro West and the Boston area are likely to get into some of this as well. All right, so this is going to be something else that we'll watch. I'm going to show you in just a second what the thunderstorm energy looks like and why I say we're going to keep watching that. And here are the storms dropping in to northern Connecticut. So you were asking about Hartford, and I said, yeah, it's coming, right? Let me zoom in. Whoop, it's here. Hartford, the big fat raindrops just beginning now. Look, the worst of it, the wind damage potential is mostly off to your northeast, and I can certainly back that up. If I loop through over the last 30 minutes, I'll zoom out just a little bit. It's been a pretty consistent trajectory, but now we're starting to see a southward expansion of some of these, trying to reach down into Hartford and come down the Connecticut River. So the one thing I would watch as I go to the current radar imagery is the stuff that's coming out of Torrington and over 44. That's going to drop over Avon, and it may strengthen enough to try and produce an isolated pocket of damaging wind. But right now, there's actually even very little thunder and lightning with it. So I think you're going to be okay with just downpours and some thunder and lightning in Hartford, but we'll keep an eye on that one for you. Tolland, a different story. Stores we've been talking about. Ashford, Connecticut, a different story as well. Let me go to the forecast part of this now, because I know a lot of times when you're checking in, and if you've been waiting on a forecast, you've been extremely patient. So let's go ahead and dive into it. You're going to see it disappear and then reappear. And I'm going to go into where the thunderstorm energy is right now, okay? what I want to do is shift the view kind of top down, makes it a little bit easier to see for you. So notice what we're getting is some of the thunderstorms at the Route 2 corridor are developing where there was a little bit higher area of thunderstorm energy. And this is what I'm talking about with inside of 128, okay? Notice the yellow that you see around Holliston, Framingham, and this has moved all the way up to Lexington. We've actually seen a northward expansion of the increased thunderstorm energy because the wind has been coming out of the south and south-southwest. So what that's done is you can see that it's taken that kind of pool of yellow, brought it up through the Metro West, and even into parts of Essex County, right up to about Salisbury, right? So the reason I mention that is because as these storms drop in, yeah, they're not impressive right now, and there's pretty few lightning strikes, but even inside of 495, as they approach 128, there is the potential that we'll find them strengthening when they hit that pool of increased thunderstorm energy. Let me check the surface observations at the same time just to make sure that we haven't gone, yeah, no, there's no sign of a sea breeze. Boston's 83 over 71, meaning an 83-degree temperature with a 71-degree dew point. Norwood's 82 over 72. This is bona fide. This is absolutely a pool of available thunderstorm energy. So this stuff coming out of Clinton and Holden, it very well may strengthen as it comes into the Boston Metro. So that's why I say don't be too quick to count out that 128 corridor, okay? Look, these forecasts that I'm showing you here, not always super accurate, but they give you a general idea. Notice as we get toward like 7:30, I would look toward the leading edge. The storms are going to be picking up speed a little bit. So essentially from New London all the way up through Brockton in the South Shore, you're dealing with some storms by the time we get to 7:30. And then, yes, they do survive the trip onto the Cape. And you'd asked about Mattapoisett earlier, and I said don't count it out. So you can see if I go back in time, it could be as soon as 8 p.m., but somewhere between 8 and 9, I would say you've got the action onto Mattapoisett, onto the Cape. It's probably not as strong by that point, but at the same time, I still think that you're looking at something that would at least have thunder and lightning with it as it comes in. Back over to the radar, and what we can do is switch back to analysis mode. I want to get another check for those of you watching us from southern Maine and New Hampshire. This lobe is pretty strong right now over Barrington and Rochester. So why don't we go ahead and let's do an analysis on that. I'll switch to the gray Maine radar, which never looks as hot on the colors. If you just look at regular radar reflectivity, it never looks as bad on the gray Maine radar as it does on Taunton. And I tried to find out why that is, but I'm told it's in my imagination. But here's the Taunton radar, and here's the gray Maine radar. Nonetheless, you can see if we switch over to storm relative velocity, there's the shear axis still showing up right now. That shear axis is just about to come into Somersworth. If you're just joining us, you didn't see it earlier, you say, wait, what's a shear axis? It's where you've got a difference in wind speed, and so you can get some gusty wind that happens with that. Occasionally you can get some strong damaging wind, although I don't see any signs of that right now. But what you watch is just to make sure that they don't kiss. Because if you get that air turning in different directions that kisses, then all of a sudden you've got some concern with the potential for some rotation that could be tornadic in nature. But we're not talking about that right now. I think the biggest thing that I would talk about with this is that we've got thunder and lightning with it, and it's moving due east. So Ogunquit has already been dealing with cloud ground lightning, and I can tell you, you're not done yet. If you wanted to know when does the back edge to the thunder and lightning come through Ogunquit, provided that stuff over Barnstead and Pittsfield doesn't come in, what I'll do here, and again, if you're not paying close attention, I should make it clear, I'm tracking the back edge now. So I'm tracking towns and times on the back edge to the lightning, okay? Just so you don't think it's the front edge. So we're talking about Dover about 6:31 and Ogunquit about 6:49. All right, so you've got about another 35 minutes in Ogunquit before the back edge to the lightning is coming through you. But keep in mind, you really want it to be 10 miles away before you go back out there. So I would say give it an hour, and let's see where things are at Ogunquit in an hour. You might be able to get back out on the beach again, okay? That's where I think we stand for now. Also, I'm just noticing we've got an 1.5-inch hail report that's come in out of Belmont, New Hampshire. So that's when we first went up for the live stream. We went up for the live stream because we were getting a storm that was starting to rotate, and I did not like the look of it around Belmont. That was the exact time, or I guess it was about 5 minutes after we went up for the live stream, because it was coming out of Franklin, and we said, this looks like a big one. So it turns out 0.75-inch hail at Laconia, That was just as it was starting to ramp out. It knocked out power there, and then 1.5 inch hail. So the hail doubled from Laconia to Belmont. Folks who don't know that area, that's one town away. So that storm was smoking. It was getting strong fast when it came through. Told you already about Belchertown and the damage that was done out there. Let's get an update on Connecticut quickly, and then we'll come back up to the Boston Metro. So you can see that when we get around Tolland, we've got now that kind of pulses of damaging wind that are possible. If I switch to the velocity plot, it's not overwhelming in terms of the damaging wind signal out of this. We can probe it a little bit. 31 miles an hour, 18 miles an hour. You say, oh, come on. Well, there's nothing to worry about. Yeah, 42 miles, right? So there are definitely spots that show up in here that have gusts to 35 to 45. But here's the thing. One thing that I talk about sometimes is that you got to remember that's 35 to 45 miles per hour horizontal wind measured by the radar. So downburst winds, if you were to get heavy downpours like we have right now over Tolland, actually can peak out at about 50. Or even 55, where we picked up on the 45 mile per hour gusts. So you do still have the potential coming into stores down 195, just over 84 now, dropping south and east of a 50 to 55 mile per hour gust. So that's why the severe thunderstorm warning remains in effect and will continue until 6:30 this evening for stores, Coventry, Andover. And again, Hartford, we told you you're probably just outside of the damage threat. That still appears to be the case. That storm coming out of Barkhamsted down towards Simsbury and Avon now is strengthening a bit, but it has not yet reached what would be concerned with in terms of damaging limits. Looks like we got a new hail indicator coming out of the storm that's headed out toward Coventry. Yep, there we go. 100% chance of hail, 40% chance of getting inch hail. And there's your towns and times on the hail core. Willimantic about 642, Windham about 646. Let's take a little bit wider view again. Go back up to the Boston Metro. So as the storms come in now on the 495 corridor, a couple of things to talk about. This is the time now for southern New Hampshire and the Boston Metro to start being on guard for the storms. 495 at Littleton, we've got the downpours coming in. Pretty decent amount of thunder and lightning around Sterling if we zoom in a little bit. The white strikes are the negatively charged strikes. The yellows are the positively charged. What's the difference? Usually, if I start to see an increase in yellow in those positive strikes, that tells me the storm is strengthening. So actually what I'm looking at here is the front side of the storm is mostly producing positive strikes. So what that tells me is it allows me to file away in the back of my mind that this storm coming over Lancaster and headed towards Stowe and Maynard may still have some strengthening left. Now keep in mind, we already looked at the thunderstorm energy, and that makes sense, right? These storms, we believe they will strengthen, and perhaps even more so as they come into the 128 belt and even inside of 128. A rarity. Normally you've got a sea breeze, but today you don't. When you get around Worcester, it's just been some downpours coming in so far. There's not even that much in the way of thunder and lightning around Worcester. Brimfield's got a good storm. You're just outside the severe thunderstorm warning, and with good reason. This doesn't look to be a storm that would necessarily be a damaging one for you yet. But again, this is another one that I would say we'll watch pretty carefully. If we probe the inside of that storm, what do we got? 31, 32. So again, when you figure in the downpour, you're probably gusting 40 or 45. That's a gusty thunderstorm, but that's not necessarily going to be something where you're dealing with damage yet. But again, those will be ones that we'll be watching really carefully as they come into the highly populated Boston area. And the one I'm really thinking about is that one I told you about coming out of Lancaster. That's the one right now where we've got those positively charged lightning strikes, and that usually tells me you could be on the edge of an uptick. All right, if you're watching us from the beach, time to go in. Seabrook, Salisbury, Hampton, Rye, time to go in. We've got thunder and lightning associated with this. I'll be candid with you. There's not a lot of lightning with it. But I don't like the look of those cores. Those are cores that are capable of producing lightning at any moment. So, again, anywhere essentially from Rye down to the south, all the way through Hampton, Seabrook, Salisbury. If your kids are out there, if you got teenagers who've gone out on a date. Yeah, see this is what I mean. Look at this. We just got a cloud to ground strike at Salisbury, way ahead of the core. This is right at Lafayette Road. Actually, I can get even more specific than that. Kendall Lane off of Lafayette Road. We just had, this is basically near Route 1, you just had a cloud to ground strike here, way out ahead of the storm core, all right? So you got more that's back off to the north and west across the state line in Newton, New Hampshire. But you just got a cloud of ground strike at Salisbury. And that's always, honestly, that's always what I get the most worried about, right? Is because so many of us, we feel like, all right, well, does lightning really strike 10 miles outside the center of the storm? Yeah, it does. And so this is why I say if you got family that's out at Rye, out at Hampton, out at Seabrook, out at Salisbury, out at Plum Island, even Newburyport, this is dropping in pretty close, just let them know. They can get in the car. The car's plenty safe. It's a safe place to be, all right? Let's see, what do we got here? We've got extreme rain, 0.51 inches so far in Rochester. Tom, thank you very much for the update there. Kensington, appreciate you, Sheila. Thunder in Haverhill, Dorette, thank you. What do we have? Roads of flooding with 0.82 inches of rain now from Tom, thank you. Ipswich, yeah, Helen C. Heard a rumble of thunder in Ipswich. You just saw it, didn't you? You know exactly what street it just hit in Salisbury. That's what you heard. That's what you heard. Moderate to light rain, 0.9 inches now, says Tom. Sorry, Tom, just catching up on you. Rochester, it's starting to move away from you. Okay, very good. Again, now's the time at the beaches. So if you're watching us here on any of the social media platforms, we are simulcasting this, as we always do, 1 degree outside at X or Twitter, at Facebook, at YouTube, Twitch, livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. You'll find us in all those spots, and you have the ability to chat with us in all those spots. That is what I think is the most important. This is not designed. I do the radar analysis because it's important that you know about what's going on. But at the same time, my big thing is hearing from you. When you see me looking off to the side, I'm doing one of two things. I'm either looking for more of your chat messages coming in, or I'm actually doing another radar analysis at the same time to be able to show you more on the screen. I'm going to take your view and I'm going to zoom it out just a little bit so that we can see more of the area. If you're watching us now from the Metro West and then running down through Connecticut, that's great. And we want to take good care of you as well. All right, let's see. And it looks like, Danielle, it looks like you've been watching and chiming in with some of the reports and also kind of passing along some of the social media. If you would, if we haven't done this already, why don't we put something out on social media just to let folks know that as the storms, yeah, it looks like we haven't put anything out for a little while. Let's put something out on social media just so we can let folks know that as the storms come into the 495 corridor and inside of 495 and into eastern Connecticut, that folks can find us here at the live stream. That would be fantastic. All right, so we'll go back down to Connecticut, and as we zoom in a little bit more, again, here's what I always kind of tell you raw, my thoughts on what's happening here. First thing I'm thinking of is where I'm starting to look at this kind of squirrely nature to the high lightning area, just south of Tolland, headed into Stores. I say right away, I want to look at a storm relative velocity and see what the wind is doing inside of that. All right, and so when I do that, I say, okay, we definitely have some gusty wind. There's no question about that. Let's go to a regular velocity plot. All right, yeah, so we're starting to see an attempt by the storm to try and form a little bit of weak rotation, but nothing that's tornadic or concerning in that regard at this point at all. Instead, we're looking at wind that when you look, you say, well, 28, 30 miles an hour. Yeah, but just keep in mind what we talked about. When you get the downpour with that, you're probably going 45 miles per hour. It's possible at the center of this downpour, you could be going 50, although radar indications now are that we're probably not. We're probably 40 or 45 on this. Here it comes into Stores. Wow, guys, look at the lightning out ahead of this thing. See, this is what oh my gosh, this is what I was talking about with the idea that you get lightning striking well out ahead of the storm. From Stores to Coventry to Eagleville, you've got multiple lightning strikes, and it's dry. And that's the type of thing that, you know, if it sounds like I'm fascinated by it, it really is more just that I hate to see it because you hold your breath. You just know that there's folks that were waiting and not realizing when thunder roars, go indoors, right? And so it's like when you get these bolts that come out of dry air, it's just, my heart goes into my throat. Thankfully, we've had a few of those this year, and it hasn't been a terrible outcome. But just keep that in mind always. Now, this is where you get some heavier rain coming down from Bolton, running all the way down to Hebron, but you don't have much thunder and lightning. Here's the thing. Any of that's a strong enough core that would easily produce for you some thunder and lightning at any moment. So just keep that in mind. And Hartford, again, you're not done yet. You've got cloud to ground lightning up at Avon. That's dropping southeast. You want me to loop it through over the last 15 minutes or so? Why don't I do that? And you can see you've got a bit of a weakening of the core right now on that storm headed into Stores. That's why I say you're probably gusting 45 right now at the worst. But we'll watch and see if it strengthens again. And then you've got that storm dropping out of Avon, which again, right now, it's got a decent rain core to it, but it's not going to be damaging, all right? And I'm always going to let you know exactly where I think things stand on that. If it's not damaging, I'm going to tell you I don't think it is. This one here that's coming into Sturbridge, biggest thing on this is lightning, because you're raining lightly from Charlton to Sturbridge. It kind of ramps up slowly, but then you've got a pretty good amount of thunder and lightning that's coming down with it. So Old Sturbridge Village, it's raining. You can hear the thunder right now. You can probably see the flashes, but there's more where that came from. It's dropping right in on top of you. Farther off to the north and east, Auburn, you've got a downpour. Worcester just had a downpour. We've still got it going on the east side of town. Once you start getting up around the airport and the Tatnuck Square neighborhood, you've pretty much kicked a lot of that off to the south and east. So good news there. Worcester kind of escaping unscathed for the most part, except for the downpours and thunder and lightning. Here we go. This is the one I was looking at Lancaster. We had a lot of positive strikes. I was a little bit concerned that we were going to start to see an uptick with it. Right now, definitely not an uptick. It's holding its own, but it's not increasing. But notice the lightning strikes, cloud to ground lightning strikes at 495, and also you've had a couple of them all the way out to Stowe. That's really coming from the top of the cloud. What you're seeing here is you're seeing the anvil, the top of the cloud, getting blown off. So your storm core is around Lancaster, but your storm top extends out, and that's enough. That's charged up enough. You're getting lightning production now all the way out to Stowe. So something to keep in mind, a lot of these storms now, as they start to increase forward speed, are producing lightning out ahead of the main storm core. Let's get back up to southern Maine, because we told you in Ogunquit it was going to take till about 6:50 for the back edge of the storm cores to make it through. Still appears to be the case. Elliott, you got a pretty good one coming in on top of you. I'd like to look at the wind inside. Okay, so this is going to be an area we've been watching all day. We've been seeing, rotational try to tighten a little bit as it comes into southern Maine. Not to a point that you're worried about tornado development at this point, and you also have kind of a weaker updraft here, but still an area you're going to watch. This is one that you might get. We'll see if this holds its own. You may get a last-minute severe thunderstorm warning issued from Elliott to the coast, and I say that only because that would be a cover-yourself type warning, and what I mean by that is when you start to see a little bit of, and this happened earlier this evening in southern Maine, we start to see a little bit of a notch developing here like you see over Elliott, and you start to see that the wind is starting to turn in different directions, you just get a little concerned that you might have something that tries to tighten up a little. So a lot of times what you'll see is you'll get a severe thunderstorm warning out ahead of it as a heads up in case it should escalate from there. And again, there's no sign it's going to imminently do that, but this is definitely the area you're watching. Coming over Elliott, Maine right now, headed to East Elliott. It'll go to Cider Hill. It'll end up over York Heights shortly after that. So that's going to be our next area that we pay close attention to. And again, I told you sometimes it looks worse than the Taunton radar. That certainly is the case right now. So that's going to be one storm core I'm going to watch. We had told you it was time to get off the beach at Hampton, so there you go. It's arrived. It's in on top of you now. Let me check the chat because, again, this is not meant to be a fully broadcast experience. This is meant to be an interactive experience. Nashua's got downpours. Milford's sending them out. Atkinson, you got a dark sky. You can hear the thunder. You've got it coming in next on top of you. Oh, what an interesting and cute little severe thunderstorm warning extension. Really, it is very interesting. So, National Weather Service is keying in on exactly what we were looking at together with that small storm core and saying, all right, let's see if we can nail down that storm core. So I can tell you, and there's the extension of a new one on the south side. So they're going through the same exact process that you and I are going through in this analysis, right? Which is, okay, we know we've got a storm core coming over Stores. We know that we've got ample thunderstorm energy that we looked at, and I'll show you again in a minute, that'll perhaps strengthen the storm as it comes up over Route 6. So we know there's the chance that if that's gusting 45 right now, we may get an extension of that damaging wind off to the south and east. So it's actually a different severe thunderstorm warning for Windham County than the one that you get down to the south in New London County. It's also issued by different National Weather Service offices. That's where you have a handoff that goes between two government offices there. Let's zoom the view out a little bit more. Here's that storm I'm still watching coming into the 495 belt. What I'm going to do is set you up to a view that gets everybody covered. I'm going to check the chat and see what you guys have had to say. I want to include everybody whenever I can. Let's see. So Tricia, torrential here, almost 10 minutes now. Steady light rain, southern New Hampshire. You guys are awesome too on these comments, whether it's on X and Twitter, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. The fact that you keep reminding me of where you are is so tremendously helpful, because you can see other folks can see all these comments as well. So we're helping each other out, but you're helping me out too, because it's not. I just can't remember everybody's location every time. So this is really helpful. Clarence, it's my pleasure to be here for you. It's Danielle's as well. She's been working behind the scenes, watching some of the reports as they come in. Daniel, you got a sprinkle in Brighton. That's already way ahead of the stuff at the 495 belt. Isn't that something? That's coming way ahead of that 495 storm. You're already sprinkling. And that's why I've been saying the lightning's been hitting out ahead of it. Big hole over the North Shore. For now, David. Yeah, and this I'll show you here in a second. Somebody's going to get missed by this north of Boston. But not many will get totally missed. Not many will get severe thunderstorms in that area, but somebody will. And we'll look at that here. Well, somebody may. We'll look at that in a second. Christine Menden, the sky is dark, and thank you very much for chiming in. I really appreciate that, and thanks for being here to support 1 Degree Outside. Steve, heavy downpours south Berwick over the Dover line. So, all right, Steve, I tell you what, we're caught up on the chat now, and I appreciate everybody continuing to chime in, again, on social media or the chat on our live stream. But let's go ahead and do another radar analysis, because when we left off a moment ago, we were looking at that storm over southern Maine, and I was saying, all right, over Elliott, it was starting to try to spin a bit, not to the point that I was concerned about tornado development. And I've told you before that a lot of storms spin. That's not actually as scary as it sounds. And this one here, still maintaining what is mostly broad scale rotation. You can see you've got what I've been referring to as a shear axis that's running here. This has been very consistent. And as a matter of fact, you know what? Don't take my word for it. Let me zoom out a little bit. I mean, please take my word for it. But at the same time, I go through the last hour. You're going to watch. There it is. You can watch. I'll highlight it for you. But that shear axis has been holding together all the way basically from Barnstead now into southern Maine. You say, well, what's a shear axis and what do I care? What it is it's where the wind shifts direction dramatically. It can increase the wind gusts with the storm. You can get a little pulse of severe criteria wind that could cause damage with it, both out ahead of it. And if I go to the current image, for example, right now I could show you exactly where that would be. That would be somewhere right over the Portsmouth area. You'd have a chance of pulsing coming over the Piscataqua, and then also over Elliott. Those would be your two chances to pulse strong. But the other thing I was mentioning earlier is you always watch your shear axis, because sometimes in the middle they try to kiss. And if they kiss, then you've got a problem, because you can get a little spin up to develop on a shear axis. That may be what happened in Falmouth, Maine earlier with the significant damage. The report that we got, and I didn't put it out on social media with detail. The detail I put out was that we were talking about a section of roof that was ripped off of a building. The report that we got from folks who were reporting out of that area to the Skywarn network was that was actually the Falmouth Inn up in Falmouth, Maine. But I didn't mention it at the time, and I'll tell you why, because if we don't know that for certain, I certainly hate to put out anybody's business and say, oh yeah, it had to, so take that with a grain of salt. I can offer that on a live stream. It's something that it's hard to convey that on social media updates, but that was the report of where that was. I don't know whether that was actually confirmed or not, and I'm always so careful, and Danielle's the same way, about ever putting anything out about someone's business, where if you don't know for a fact, right? I'm looking at some of the, wow, okay, let's see if I can share this with you. Do I have a browser window ready to go? Stand by here. Let's go, browser window. Yup, let me make sure I've got it on the right browser. Stand by, and I want to see if I can get this for you so you can see some of what I'm seeing come in on social media. All right, yep, here we go. Okay, let's bring it up, and hello. Hold on a second. Okay, let's see. We're gonna here we go. Browser window. All right, I gotta do it again. Sorry. I don't. It's all right. It saved it. All right. We're good. All right, you ready? Here we go. All right, let me bring it up. All right, so this I just saw come in. Look at that. That is severe storm that just went over Bradley Airport. Isn't that something, huh? That was right over Windsor Locks, Connecticut. Woo! Look at that. Oh man. So that was that big burst that was coming in on a leading edge to the storm as it came through. Mickey D's getting a free shout out there as well. Really amazing stuff there. Let's see anything else here was that rainbow shot that Danielle had. Oh, look at that. Oh, the double rainbow. That's the one from Nick Morganelli. Amazing. Isn't that amazing? Right over Westfield, Massachusetts. Incredible, right, folks? That really is something. Let's get back over to the radar here and see what's going on. Looks like the west side of Methuen's going to sneak through again, says Donald Smith. All right, Donald, we're going to take a look. Let's do it. Here we go. All right. I don't know, Donald. I don't know. I wouldn't go saying the west side of Methuen's not going to. We'll see. I'll bet you Coke on that one. It's going to be close. You got to now, if you mean severe weather, yes. All right, I'll go with you on that one. But if you mean thunder, lightning, thunderstorm, here it comes. Let's see. And so that's coming out of Nashua, New Hampshire now. So Pelham's up next. Going to come over 38. And then you've also got the other one coming out of Townsend, Pepperell, Dunstable. That's headed toward Dracut. So the 110 corridor going to be getting doused with at least rain, thunder, lightning. Now, keep in mind, here we go, inside 495 now. All right, coming up when you get around the 495 belt, Maynard, you're up next. You got the downpours that are moving in on top of you. And in Westboro, we're going to send that in the Metro West. Let me show you what I've been watching. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so you can all see your area, right? There's Connecticut with the severe thunderstorm warnings that we continue to follow. I'll give you another update on that in a second. But one thing I do want to do is I want to take you to the available thunderstorm energy right now. You're going to see it disappear and then come back at you. All right, let me do a top-down view. This is what I've been talking about since we first went up in the live stream a couple hours ago, which is that you've got this pool of increased thunderstorm energy showing up in yellow where? Inside of 495 and 128. So when you start getting, you've got it, with the storms coming into eastern Connecticut, you've got a little bit of a pool of increased energy from Montville to Griswold and then running up all the way through 395. But you really start to pick it up outside of Woonsocket, Rhode Island, Milford, Mass., Framingham, all the way into Boston. Folks, this is not an event where you got a sea breeze in Boston and you've stabilized the atmosphere. This is an event where these storms are going to try and run all the way to the coast. We're increasing the lightning a little bit now, coming up in the suburbs northwest of town. Now, look, these are not right now severe thunderstorms. Chances are good, and I mentioned this earlier. Chances are good. A lot of us see a little something. Few of us probably see severe thunderstorms in the Boston metro. This would be the time, however, in the next 35 minutes, that we're going to watch really carefully because you've got this area where you're looking at what now is that little pool of instability. And again, with no sea breeze, dew point running about 72 at Norwood, 71 at Boston, temperature in the 80s, you still have available storm energy. Same thing when you get into Essex County, up 133, up 95, Topsfield, Byfield, all the way to Newburyport. You've got a pool of thunderstorm energy that's in here that these storms may still be able to get a little more life to them as they come over and inside of 495. So just something to keep in mind. This is not that classic event where it's ho-hum. It's all just going to die as it comes inside of 95. That said, again, I don't think a lot of folks will see severe weather out of it, but just keep in mind. You say, well, what about me farther to the south? Look, South Coast, I've been telling you, this has a lot of momentum to it. So this stuff coming out of Connecticut probably will survive, certainly down to New London and Westerly. North Kingstown, Rhode Island probably will survive. And then this stuff, it's going to get a little bit more footing coming in through the southwestern suburbs of Boston because of the thunderstorm energy. Then it will start to decline again. But still, thunder and lightning will be possible, particularly as we get toward, let's say, about 8:30 or so. When you get around Buzzards Bay, we'll see. But it's not going to be like it was probably a few nights nights. A couple weeks ago when we were on with you at the live stream where we got blasted all the way out through Fall River in the Cape, right? So that's a look at what's going on in terms of thunderstorm energy. I can tell you there's some other things I can show you that I think will make you feel a little bit better, which is if we plot energy plus spin. So if I'm saying, okay, what is the wind doing right now and does it favor rotation inside the storms? This is all really, it's not none, but it's on the little side of the scale. Okay, so the only area that we'd still be watching would be northern Essex County from Ipswich to Rowley to Newburyport. And the reason for that is because you do have a little bit more of a south-southeast component over Cape Ann. So the thing of it is, if you can't get the updrafts to strengthen considerably, then you wouldn't have an issue with that. But that is one area that we'll pay attention to, especially given the history in southern Maine of seeing some of the storms try to have a little rotation with them, but just not have a strong enough updraft. In other words, the strength of the storm core wasn't quite enough. Same type of thing with this. As it comes in, if the storm updraft can get strong enough, then that would be something we'd worry about. All right, so that's where we're looking in terms of the kind of forecast part of this. Let's get swung over to the analysis side again and see where we stand. Let's start in Connecticut. It's been a little while since we've updated you. You're still under the severe thunderstorm warning. Everything's been pretty much on target with towns and times. One thing I would like to do, just because we haven't done it in a little bit, is I would like to go ahead and take our storm relative velocity. Yeah, so inside the storm now, it's not a strong rotation. It's a weak one, but it's enough that you look at it and say, okay, we need to watch what's going on over Route 6 heading toward Willimantic and Windham. Not at a point right now where you're jumping up and down, but it's enough to keep an eye on, all right? So we're going to keep watch of that. If I go over to shear, you can see that shear plot. It's low. It's a low to moderate shear that shows up, but any amount of kind of directional change is something that we're going to pay really close attention to, all right? So right now we're tucked inside anyway, Willimantic to Windham. The reason for that is because we're in a severe thunderstorm warning. Damaging wind, straight line wind is a possibility for us inside of this. The core of the storm headed to Windham in Scotland and Route 14. And then farther to the south and west, less in the way of lightning. There is still some, but less. And heavy rain in Hartford. Lightning still ongoing up by Windsor, but no damaging threat in Hartford with that as it comes in. Some leftover storm cells that are, or downpours that are up over Litchfield County right now. Drifting southeast along 44 will not become damaging. There's not enough energy left for those. Metro West, Boston's Metro West, here we go. You've got your storms now lined up and down 495 and marching down the Massachusetts Turnpike. There is heavy rain with these, but it is not like it was over the past couple of weeks where we've had a flash flood concern. This stuff in Westboro, look, even I know how subject to flooding Route 9 is in the Framingham, Natick stretch. At the same time, you're not dealing with a situation that should cause substantial problems with that. They're moving too fast. They're too narrow. Flash flooding, not really an issue here. More a concern, the lightning, of course. Walden Pond, an area that now has got the lightning ongoing. We're looking at most of our parks where folks are out and enjoying that are around Lexington, Waltham, Woburn. You can see the dark sky that's coming in on top of you now. The center of the storm is over Stowe. It'll be in Maynard at 6:53, in Sudbury at 7:03, and again, that's the center of the storm. In Concord at 7:09, in Wayland at 7:12. All right, so that's what we're looking at on that core of the storm. Again, the leading edge ahead of it, and one of the things that I've been telling you about is lightning has been striking well out ahead of the storm and ahead of the storm core. So just keep that in mind. Lightning can strike up to 10 miles outside of the storm. We've been seeing it strike several miles anyway outside of the storm so far today. So that's something to be aware of. Farther to the north, we're into it now. Here we go, Newburyport, Plum Island, north end of the island. If you know someone who's there and they've been trying to keep the beaches up to date, we had already told folks who are watching to please let your friends or family who are out at Salisbury, Seabrook, Hampton, Rye, Gunquit know there was thunder coming. Now it's Plum Island, okay? So it's expanding through Salisbury. My concern here for folks around Newbury to Plum Island is that we're going to see an expansion south, because remember, we have that pool of energy that's available across eastern and central Essex County. So we may actually see this thing trying to run a little farther down 1 and 1A. And that's why I say Plum Island, time to get, if you're not already, got to get off that beach. You don't have much time left as this thing comes in on top of you, and it's got thunder and lightning with it. Farther off to the west, Plastow's got a downpour. There's some rumbles of thunder you hear in the distance, but the worst is yet to come for Plastow and the Merrimack Valley, including Methuen, Lawrence, and Haverhill. You're watching the storms coming out of Nashua. The arrival time on these, if we zoom things out a little bit, first of all, in the core of the storm, it's at Drake at 7:13. But your overall speed, this says about 26 miles an hour. I bet because we're coming into an area with greater thunderstorm energy, I'm willing to bet we're going to see an increase in the forward speed. So I'm going to do a couple of things here. I'm going to take you from the front edge of that core of the storm. All right? Here we go. I'm going to march it east. I'm going to increase the speed to what should be about 32, 33 miles an hour. And here comes your towns and times. If you're listening to us, and again, that's the beauty of being an all-digital network, is you can listen to us like a podcast if you want in the car. You can watch us on the boat. You can watch us while you're out at the beach or at the park, right? Wherever you are, you can watch us on your computer. You can watch us on your smart TV. We're streaming on YouTube right now as well. You'd look for 1 degree outside, the number 1 degree outside. But I'll read off some of the towns and times, even though you can see them, in case you're having trouble seeing it on your cell phone or if you're listening. It looks like probably Lowell, about 6:57. You get the leading edge to the core of the storm. You're going to get a chance for lightning a little bit before that, all right? But 10 minutes from now or so, you got the core of the storm starting to come in on you. Atkinson, same deal for you, all right? Plastow about 7:01, Haverhill 7:02, Methuen 7:05, West Newbury at 7:10, Tewksbury at 7:07, Groveland, Merrimack, Lawrence, all around 10 past 7, Andover and North Andover about 7:15, Newburyport and Newbury about 7:20. But again, you're on guard. Newburyport, you've already got that one on top of you now. So that would be the follow-up one that comes in. Georgetown, you're not going to get the one that's to your north up by Newburyport. You're going to wait on the main one, and that one comes in at 7:24. Boxford about 7:29, and East Boxford about 7:31. If you're just joining us, thanks for being here. You're watching the 1 Degree Outside Weather Network and All Digital Weather Network. I'm meteorologist Matt Noyes. Danielle Noyes is my wife and working behind the scenes to relay your reports as they come in. We invite you to continue to file your reports by using the chat feature, which is found anywhere you're watching this live stream right now. I'm going to take a moment and check the chat one more time. And as I do, what I like to do when I check that chat is give you a broad enough view so everybody can see the live radar and everyone feels covered while I take a look at the chat. So let me go ahead and see what you've got to share with me here over the last few minutes. Let's see. Significant tree and wire damage in Belchertown. Yes, Chris, thank you for that. We did report that on the live stream as it happened. We reported it in real time. But you bring up a really good point, which is folks are tuning in all over the course of the afternoon. So I probably should run down from time to time what we've received for damage reports. But thank you for that, Chris. Very much appreciate it. Salisbury near Amesbury just started to pour rain. That's right, Ed. You're into that now. Let's see. And what do we have? Heather, 2 weeks ago, recent Plymouth Mass. Widow can I experience my first lightning powers. I blew out so many appliances, the central AC, garage door. Most time we're not going to get damaged. First of all, Heather, I'm sorry for your loss. Secondly, I can tell you that you're in this case, it all has to do with lightning strikes. So I don't think you're going to get a big burst of damaging wind in Plymouth necessarily. That was a nasty storm. I know the one you're talking about. We were live for that one right here, and that was really bad. I remember it happening again. We were reporting that live. We had wires and telephone poles coming down on cars. It was awful. That was on that July 3rd event that was going on. This is not going to be anything like that. You may get a lightning strike that could take out the power, but it's not going to be like that. Tom, you picked up just over an inch of rain, and if I remember right, you were, I think, Rochester, New Hampshire, right? Thank you, Tom. Denise, raining in Salem now. Yep, you're into it, Denise. Got to be quick. Got to be a quick hit for you as it comes through. Yeah, Thunder in Waltham. Here it comes inside the 128 belt. That's right, Jamie. Thanks for sharing that. Appreciate it. Going to check the other chat as well at livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. Most of it is consolidated in one place. If you comment on social media, YouTube or Twitch, I see it all right here. If you comment on the built-in chat at livestream.onedegreeoutside.com, I see it on another screen. Any more rain expected after this line, asks Mel in Arlington. No, Mel, this line is going to be the line for you as it comes through. Now, there's a couple rounds with it here, and I'll take a closer look for you in Arlington in just a second. But once it's through, and you're done. The air is turning more stable up to the north right now. So with that, why don't we do it? You want to take a little bit of another spin around? Let me just make sure that there's nothing really cool, again, that came in on social that I should be sharing with you, because we had that really cool picture. Oh, this is interesting. Well, you always get this. Now, this is interesting. Oh, let's see. Okay, all right. Let's make this full screen. Hold on a second here, and I'll bring it back. This is someone who says that they've got a tornado in Lebanon, Connecticut. Now, let's see. We always want to be careful because you may have a funnel that almost made it to the ground. It may not be, but let me see if I can get that going on for you. All right. Okay, this is just in Lebanon, Connecticut. Put it in motion. You definitely got rotation. You definitely got rotation. Yep. Yep, that sure looks like it, doesn't it, folks? You definitely have some amount of rotation. I see no debris. You should, if it was a touchdown. Oh, well, look at that. If it was a touchdown, you should see some amount of debris thrust up into the air. At least leaves. You know what I mean? So you may be doing funnel. You certainly got a rotating wall cloud at the very least by the looks there. That's let's go ahead. We'll give that one a little repost, and we'll say definitely rotating clouds, right? Definitely rotating clouds there. No evident touchdown, right? So there we go. We'll post that up, and let's see what else we got. All right, so that's the rundown on what you're getting there. Let's get you back over to the radar. Here we go. We're into the Metro West now, so let's do another radar analysis and see what's happening. We'll take you into the Boston area, and we're starting to get some of that light rain coming into Burlington, Lexington right now as well, getting into the steadier rain. Here's the lightning. It's made it into Lincoln, coming down Route 2. Lexington, you're up next, so you are no longer safe in terms of lightning. We do have the chance for a lightning strike, and just so you know, folks around Arlington and Belmont, even though you're only getting these stray drops that are coming down, today, for whatever reason, we've been seeing the lightning striking in advance of the storm. So we are at least game for lightning strikes now in Arlington and Belmont, so we want to get indoors and get ready for the storm to come in, because we've been seeing that lightning outrunning the rain today in a number of spots. Hopkinton's got the heavy rain coming down. There has been some thunder and lightning, although I certainly wouldn't call it frequent as it makes its way through, but it's going to continue to build east into Sherborne and Dover. Natick and Framingham, you're getting into the rain now as well. Nothing damaging, nothing severe. Heavy rain in Upton right now. There's no lightning in Upton the moment. There will be. You've got a strong enough storm core in there. That should produce lightning for you any moment. I would expect to see that showing up. Let's go ahead and, with the storm that's over Maynard, the core of that storm is dropping south and east right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at the wind inside the storm. Let's make sure there's nothing to be overly concerned with. Now, you do have a little bit of a shifting wind in there. When you see red, it's air moving in one direction. Green is air moving in the other. We're seeing that happening right now. None of that is tight enough to be a concerning rotation. None of that is even to the point at this point where I would call it rotation. It's probably just a bit of a wind shear that's going on at this point. Yep, there it is. You can see that velocity. That's a straight line burst that's coming in from behind this thing. Let's see if we can get a little bit of a probe on what's happening there. 31 miles an hour, 27. You say, oh, that's nothing, right? Yeah, true, although that 31 miles an hour over Sudbury, when you figure in the fact that you've got heavy downpours, that can translate to about a 40 or 45 mile per hour gust. So remember, you're just starting to get these storms coming into that pool. We had looked together at that pool of thunderstorm energy, and if you're just joining us right now, hello and welcome aboard here in the Merrimack Valley. You've got the rain now coming into 495 and 213. One of the things that I did earlier, and I'll do it very quickly, we won't spend a lot of time, but I will show you the thunderstorm energy plot for the Boston area, because if you're just joining us in the Boston Metro, I want you to see where we stand here. So these are the storms obviously on radar. I've got lightning on here as well. See the yellows over Weston, over Needham, into Boston, right up Route 95 into Rowley. So that's an increased moderate thunderstorm energy that's still in place. And that's why these storms aren't going to die. That's why they're going to survive to the coast. Now, I'm not going to tell you they're all going to be severe. In fact, most of them definitely won't be. But I am going to tell you that they should survive because you have a southerly wind. You've never gone to a sea breeze today. So you have not diminished the thunderstorm energy in the atmosphere, and you've got it in on top of you right now. So with that, I'll get you back over to the radar because I promised you this wouldn't take long. But I did want to at least show you why these storms will run all the way to the coastline out of this one, okay? Haverhill's into it now. Just heard from my dad in Haverhill. Hi, Dad. He says the rain has just started up. Oh, Chris, thank you. Chris says the web browser's still up for the live stream. Sorry about that. Thank you. Really appreciate you guys talking about in the chat about what's going on. That's very helpful. Thank you. And that was thank you, Chris. Appreciate the heads up on that. So here we go back to the view, and there were a lot of you chiming in. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Sorry about the delay on that one, but hopefully you're still with us here. So you can see what's developing now. Look at this. This is a broken line that's developing. Just so you know, this purple line is a tornadic vortex signature. This is the National Weather Service radar. It's an old algorithm, but it's picking up on a tornado signature. So let's take a look together. There are plenty of times we see that and it's not accurate. But let's go in close. Yeah, well, it certainly is trying to get something going, isn't it? Right now, this is what you'd be watching for. That notch that you see, particularly with what we saw out of the rotating clouds in that social media post I shared with you. This is something that we're going to watch very carefully. When you start to get this kind of a notch that kind of digs in, and you can see how close we are to getting gate-to-gate shear, this is something we need to watch over Franklin down to Smith Corner. So while that is not an accurate placement on a tornado signature, there certainly is something here worth watching. So we're not quite there, perhaps, but this is going to be one we want to keep a close eye on. Shear starting to increase. You've started to see some of the light green, which on the you're bordering towards strong on our legend here. Okay, so we're getting closer. You're certainly not going to see anything for debris. What you would see if there were debris, by the way, would be something that looks like a blue or something like that, but that is not underneath the center of rotation. So that is not what you're looking at there. All right, we just got a new radar scan. Let's swing back over to the storm relative velocity. All right, yep, you've still got some gate-to-gate that's trying to show up here. You've still got a notch that's in there over Route 32 at Smith Corner. So look, bottom line, Smith Corner down in Norwich Town and Taftville in Connecticut. We certainly want to be inside, away from windows as the storm comes in. It already has a history of producing damaging wind. Certainly rotation would up the ante somewhat here, so we want to be on guard for that. So at 395, the 395 corridor, anywhere near Taftville, you've got the storm dropping southeast on you. It is starting to show some signs of trying to tighten its rotation. It's close to something that we would be overly concerned with, but it may not quite be there yet. All right, let's get back over. Yep. So what you're watching for here, you're watching to see if you tighten this, if you can tighten that rotation up at all. You've got a larger problem on your hands. And I don't want to leave you in eastern Connecticut, but I do want to make sure that those of you in the Boston Metro are getting covered as well. Because notice the other thing that's happening. This is it. This is what we were talking about, Boston Metro. Here you go. All right, special marine warning just went up all the way from Plum Island, Merrimack River, down through Boston Harbor, because look what's happened. We suddenly have the thunderstorms hitting that pool of energy that we looked at. We've been looking at it for the last 2.5 hours, right? And now it's hit it, and bam, you're filling it in. And this is why I said not everybody in the Boston Metro is going to get severe, but almost everybody in the Boston Metro is going to get something. Here it goes, filling in. And again, one of those things you don't have to take my word on. Last 30 minutes. Watch it for yourself. There it is. filling in. All right, there it is filling in. Let's go to the current image now. Let's wipe off that telestration. New Hampshire Seacoast, you're almost done. You're almost done. Back edge coming in. Merrimack Valley, you're into it. When's it going to end? That's the next question everybody always asks. When's it going to end? Are you ready? I'm going to answer. This is something nobody ever does, but I think it's worth doing. Let's track the back edge, right? We always track the front edge, which is important. Let's track the back edge. Why not? So when's it going to end for you? Here you go. There's your end times. Ends about 7:05 at Danville, 4 minutes from now. Ends about 7:09 at Kingston. Ends about 7:14 at Atkinson. Ends about 7:16 in Salem, New Hampshire. Ends at 7:17 at Lowell. It ends about 7:23 in Southampton, 7:25 in Methuen, 7:26 in Tewksbury. All right, that's your end time on the heavy rain and most of the lightning. Just keep in mind, disclaimer, lightning can strike up to 10 miles outside of the storm, right? Boston area, here you go. We now have the storms entering the I-95 corridor. All right, so as you know, we are the official weather provider and weather app for Boston Duck Tours. Their tours should have just ended 1 minute ago. So we were able to squeak through the tours without having the storms in on top of them for this. But nonetheless, the folks in Boston, here comes the center of the storm. Here's your arrival times. You ready? Weston 7:08, so it's just about in on top of you. This is the center of the storm. Front edge is already into Medford, right, with the light rain, and it's going to pick up. But center of the storm, Newton at 7:20, Watertown 7:22, Belmont 7:22, Arlington, core of the storm 7:25, Brookline 7:31, Cambridge, core of the storm arrives at 7:32, Medford, core of the storm 7:32. All right? Back down to Connecticut we go. Let's update on what's going on here. We can get that marine warning off the screen. There we go. Here's our core of the storm. Severe thunderstorm warning remains in effect until 7:15. Still not seeing a tightening of the rotation. That's good. That's good. Still definitely signs of damaging wind potential. That damaging wind potential coming out of Franklin, Connecticut, dropping south and east toward Taftville. Norwich, Connecticut has a chance for damaging wind, but certainly Taftville, maybe Lisbon as well. There's the latest update. You get about 1 minute updates on this. Center of that damaging wind core. Going to come over Norwich 7:16, Preston about 7:23, Glasgow about 7:31. All right? Just so you know, what you're seeing here at the bottom of the screen, that BTI, that's a Barron Tornado Index. When it gets 4 to 5, you have to be very concerned. So that is something that index is also showing us that we need to be careful with and be concerned about. Now, having said that, again, we've been seeing a rotation. At this moment, it's not tight enough that I would be worried about something imminent. We have a history from what we saw on social media of some rotation within the cloud, some sort of a rotating wall cloud, it would appear. Right now, that does not look to be tight enough rotation to be producing that. Nope. And there's the updated scan. Again, every minute we're getting an updated scan. Not seeing rotation that would be imminently concerning, but seeing signs of damaging wind coming into Taftville. Very likely we'll see an extension to the south and east of the severe thunderstorm warning on that. Hartford, you're out of it for the most part. You get a leftover shower coming out of northern Connecticut. And here's the line for the Boston area. Coming in toward the city now. Also, when you get around Uxbridge, we've got thunder and lightning headed toward Millville coming out of the west. Milford's already sent it along the way to Holliston. We're going to send it on next to Dover. Dover, Sherburne, you're not going to get hit very hard out of this. You're going to see it come and go and say, oh, is that it? Came through and it's gone? But notice that real heavy downpour that's in across Lexington, Lincoln, Wayland, Waltham, headed directly for Boston. Here we go in the city. Let's check the chat. If you are watching us right now, we invite you to continue to chime in. We're on X or Twitter. We're on Facebook. We are on YouTube. We're on Twitch. And the Twitch stream is also out at livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. And you can find us at the bottom of the home screen of our app. You can link to it there as well. Peter's asking if it's a bust over Cape Ann. Peter, it's going to weaken. I would be surprised if it's severe for you at Cape Ann because unlike everybody else who didn't have a sea breeze. Cape Ann, you get a south wind, you sea breeze. Wind picked up in Merrimack 20 to 25. Okay, thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. Donald loves me a Coke on Methuen. Good. Thanks for being honest, Donald. Appreciate it. We'll meet up for that Coke sometime. Couple drops in Dorchester. Here we go, Charles. Threatening skies in Saugus. Halloween 74. Thank you. Daniel's watching from Brighton. Daniel, you always keep us posted. Really appreciate that. Got the thunder now in Brighton. Still quiet in Ipswich. Enjoy it while it lasts, Helen. Saugus going to be in the middle of both lines. Let's look. Let me zoom the view up, out and up just a little bit for you here. Yeah. So here's the thing. You've got to split. If you look real tight at first, you go, oh, man, someplace like Peabody or Linfield, we're going to get split. Yeah, hold on. You got brand new severe thunderstorm warning just out. Hasn't even populated on the map yet. It will. There you go. Severe thunderstorm warning has been issued for now Essex County. Surprise, surprise, right? If you've been watching the live stream long enough, we were waiting on this ever since this stuff was in Vermont, New Hampshire. We were talking about how you had a pool of thunderstorm energy, and it was right over Essex County, and it was going to strengthen. Sure enough, it did it right over the Merrimack River Valley. It's where we were expecting to do it. Severe thunderstorm warning to be out till 8 o'clock. Essex, portions of extreme eastern Middlesex County. So you're under the gun here. Why? Because damaging wind is a potential in some of these pockets, all right? Let's go ahead and take a look together. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to be widespread damaging wind, okay? But if we go ahead and we probe this, I can tell you that at the center of some of this, you got 30-mile-an-hour wind, 28 here. Again, this is not going to be widespread damaging wind. I'll tell you right now. But what's happened here is that if you can pull a 30-mile-per-hour wind at radar level, and you know that's a horizontal wind, and then you introduce a downpour into that, what you end up doing is increasing the speed of that wind as it comes down. So one of the things, I actually have a downburst product that I can show you. Let me see. Sometimes it's working for me the way I want it to. Sometimes it's not. So I'm going to actually work on that off the screen here for just a second while you continue to watch the radar with that severe thunderstorm warning that remains in effect here. Okay? Let's go ahead and we're going to set that to the radar. Great. All right, let me get back over to you here on the radar because you've got that Merrimack Valley shot. But if you're around Boston, I don't want to exclude you either. Let's zoom the view out. All right? We just had thunder here. We're in the Merrimack Valley. I got thunder out there. Oh, it's pouring rain. Look at that. Pouring rain. All right. So Merrimack Valley, we've got the severe thunderstorm warning all the way down to the North Shore. And again, that's because of what we're looking at. This is based, yeah, okay. So National Weather Service, a little insight on the warning. They picked up on at least one spot of 45 knots of wind. So that would be about 52 miles an hour, 53 mile an hour wind on the Boston Terminal Doppler, which I can also show you in a second, down around 2,000 feet. So they're watching that exact area. They're saying from Lawrence to Beverly. They're watching that exact area I just showed you here. This downpour right here. That's really great insight, and that's excellent. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to thank them for that. I appreciate that. Excellent insight. All right. All right, great. So we've got now at least the insight, and it's nice to have that backup because you hear me telling you about it, but I'm not issuing the warning, right? It's the government agency, the National Weather Service, that issues the warning. So when you get that kind of agreement there, and you say, okay, good, it's what we're looking at. That's the same thing that the warning's been issued for, and that, by the way, should back up what I was telling you. And if I'm getting a little dark, I can light it up a little. But that should back up what I was telling you about the fact that we are not looking at something that's going to be a widespread wind damage. It's going to be where you get that downpour that comes through. All right, we're going to watch the same thing now. Oh yeah, we got leaves, little pieces of leaves and trees blowing outside here. I wonder if could I switch you around? Let's see. You get more out of the radar anyway. Nobody wants to see my backyard when you're getting hit in your backyard. It's I'd say gusts right now are going on the order of 35. Treetop gusts are the 35 here in the Merrimack Valley, what I'm getting. All right, so here we go. Another little core that's coming out of Milford. That core is going to be through Franklin, Millis, Norfolk, Wrentham, and Walpole over the next half hour. All right, and that's the core of the storm that's dropping in. Immediate Boston Metro, Here you go. This is your time. Let's see if you've got any velocity increase that's happening. Yeah, you actually do. Actually, Boston Metro, we got signals that could be a developing strong burst of wind here. Yeah, interesting. When we get right over East Natick, coming into Wellesley Farms, that's another area that we've got a developing core of wind. So we may end up starting to hear about some wind damage reports coming into places like Auburndale, Newton Upper Falls, Newton Highlands. I don't think it'll be widespread, but you might get a limb down, something like that, on this storm that's starting to charge off to the south and east. All right? Let's see what we got. Let's go back over to the velocity again. Yep. Okay, so that's going to be another area that we're going to watch. And again, it's great. It's correspondence with the National Weather Service. I actually just had chimed in over there to the forecaster on duty there, and just let them know we're watching north part of Wellesley as well. So that, because look, it's we're working together, right? We're working together. We know that certainly that. The government forecasters have been in the news a lot lately, and they do amazing work for all of us. And so the more we can help each other out, the better off we all will be. So we've got the strong bursts of wind now. I keep looking out the window because I'm seeing what's going on here in the Merrimack Valley. So basically, the area we're watching is this right here. I can actually circle it for you. This right over North Andover, coming into Harold Parker State Forest area. This is one area where you're going to get a gust that may go 40, 45. And you can actually, the reason I say that, we're getting a little bit of a lower echo that shows up here, and that sometimes indicates the wind's trying to punch down from aloft. So keep that in mind. Harold Parker State Forest out to Boxford. You've got another potential there. Okay, here we go. So remember, I had just said that I passed along, watching the Wellesley thing. Watch this. You're about to see a new warning. There it is. Bam. New warning out. Here we go. Boston Metro, including the city of Boston, now under a severe thunderstorm warning. So this is going to be, again, the thing that I hope you get out of this is that you get to see it live. You get to see it happening. You get to see how things are, how things are baked, so to speak, right? So let's see. We're going to go ahead and I'm just going to let folks know that we are still live streaming severe warnings. Eastern Mass live stream continues. Come join us. All right, so if you're watching us, of course, you know that I'm going to get right back into the analysis now, and let's do it. So severe thunderstorm warning that's up for the Boston area is going to be out until 8 o'clock. Again, it is not going to be widespread wind damage. It's going to be what we've been talking about with this line. It's going to be that you've got small pockets where you may be able to burst to a damaging wind gust here and there. Let's take a look at where those pockets may be right now. We'll go over to the velocity plot. This is the one that I told you about on the north side of Wellesley Farms, coming over Washington Street, headed out toward Babson Park. So Babson College, there's a chance that we end up with a little bit of wind damage for you as this kind of drops in on top of you. And it's funny because, again, if you go ahead and you probe it, you say 37, 36. You're looking, I don't know, 37 doesn't seem like that much, right? But you've got a downpour in the same exact spot. You can gust 50. When we gust 50 in some of these areas that have, some of the old trees, and you've got some of the residential neighborhoods where you've got big tree limbs, that's enough to bring them down. So it may not meet what's technically severe thunderstorm criteria, but if damage is being done, it's severe to you. And that is a potential now coming over Route 9 in the Wellesley Hills neighborhood, headed for Babson Park. Going to also straddle Route 9 or Worcester Street all the way to 95 and Newton Upper Falls. This is going to be the area we want you tucked indoors, away from windows. You've got a chance of damaging wind coming in through you. I can zoom the view out a little bit more, give you towns and times so you have a better idea of what we're looking at here. Let's go ahead and draw that front edge, that leading edge. But what I'll do is zoom out just a touch so we can cover the whole area. Storm motion has been about 32, 33 miles an hour. Oh, let me start again. Stand by because we just got a new scan. We're getting these scans, disregard on those towns and times. There we go. We get these scans about every 60 seconds. So I want to make sure that I get the latest scan for you when I do this. Here we go. Leading edge to this stuff, moving off to the east-southeast. Speed has been about 30 or a little bit better than that on the speed. There's your towns and times. Everett, about 719. But again, it rains sooner than that. That's the leading edge to that core of wind that's coming, rain that's coming in. Thunder, lightning, the potential for some embedded damaging wind isolated. Winthrop at 727, Hull at 738, Hingham about 747, and Cohasset at 755. All right? That's your severe thunderstorm warning for the Boston Metro. Let me zoom out. Here's your severe thunderstorm warning for the Merrimack Valley and the North Shore. Again, this one has been more confined. I told you there was one area that we thought there was a chance for damaging wind, and that was coming over Harold Parker State Forest the last time we touched base. Now it's making its way over West Boxford, but let's see if I still see the same signs of damage. No, that wind signature has come down substantially on this particular radar. Let's see. Can I switch over? This is, all right, so I'm looking. This is what the Weather Service was using on theirs, which is that the terminal Doppler radar for Logan Airport out of Weymouth. All right, let's see what we're getting on a measurement now. I think we've come down on this as well. 30, 30. Yep. So isn't that always the way, right? You got the severe thunderstorm warning, and there may be a pocket of damage that comes back from Harold Parker. I'm not sure that you're going to get it down to the south and east toward Middleton. I think you're losing your damaging wind core. You may be able to generate it again over East Boxford. Let's go back to velocity. Yeah, it's not overwhelming. The only thing is that part of the storm is starting to move west to east, which is kind of along with the radar beam. So you may be losing a little bit of velocity estimate there. So there's still a chance at I-95 at East Boxford that we get a little pocket of wind damage, and we'll keep an eye on that as it heads out toward Linebrook. Farther to the south, Boston area. Here we go. City of Boston now has lightning strikes. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. Cambridge has lightning strikes. Street level tracking of the lightning for you. Thorndike Street appears to be about where that strike was, or the O'Brien Highway, Route 28. You've had a lightning strike there. Street level tracking, Huron Avenue. We've got a lightning strike in North Cambridge or Huron Ave near Coolidge. You've also got lightning strikes in Watertown. Multiple lightning strikes. Newton Corner. These two yellow ones are positively charged lightning strikes. What does that mean? It's a sign the storm may be a little bit on the strengthening trend, which it certainly has been. We've got cloud-to-ground lightning strikes through Oak Hill neighborhood of Newton. We've got cloud-to-ground strikes through Needham. All right, all of this moving into Boston. Heavy rain in Newton. Not worried about significant flash flooding with this event. Different from the event we had a couple of weeks ago, or over the past couple of weeks, had a few of them. Not going to pour for a long period of time. Going to pour, but not for a long period of time. All right? 1 hour hail tracks, just starting to see some evidence of some hail right at the core now when you get around Newton Upper Falls. This is that same area we were talking about the potential of some damaging wind as well. So it's not impossible we get some hail all the way to Chestnut Hill. That may be able to hold together. Farther to the north, you haven't seen much hail around the Merrimack Valley. You got some at Dracut earlier. Haven't seen much that's been coming in now. And again, this is mostly just, it's heavy rain and lightning for you, Merrimack Valley. I think the strongest game in the Massachusetts area here is going to be this one. It's right over the Metro West at Newton Upper Falls. The chance for a little isolated damaging wind burst. Go back over to velocity. Yep, still have it. Here it comes now. It's actually the core that shows up strongest for wind is over Central Avenue, heading into Needham. All right, we can analyze that a little bit. That's 36 miles an hour, but you figure in the downburst, and you're likely able, or the downpour of rain that can cause the downburst, you may be able to gust to 50, and that would be enough to cause a little isolated pocket of damage coming into Needham. So we're going to watch for damage reports out of that. Update from the National Weather Service Skywarn Spotter Network that we do have damage now in Lowell and Dracut. Just a reminder that every time you use our 1 Degree Outside weather app, and if you don't have the app, if you're new to 1 Degree Outside, I'm meteorologist Matt Noyes, spent 25 years on Boston television, on NECN, and on NBC 10 Boston, and then branched out with my wife Danielle to start 1 Degree Outside, a digital-first weather offering focused on all of New England from northern Maine to southern Connecticut. And so this is what we do. This is why we're here, to be digital on your cell phone, to be digital on your computer, on your smart TV. We are out on YouTube right now, live streaming, and you can grab us on your smart TV without a problem. If you have that voice-activated remote, search for 1 Degree Outside on YouTube, and you'll find us and be able to watch the stream. But one of the things that we're going to do here is, as we continue to follow this line, we're going to check in again on Connecticut. All right? The storms have weakened pretty considerably in Connecticut. This is where we saw some rotation for a little while. We're now seeing things have weakened substantially. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning for New London County, all the way up to the Rhode Island border until 7:30. Willing to bet that will probably not get extended. There is still what we call a shear axis with air moving in different directions that sometimes can produce strong gusts. But at this point, not seeing even the same wind signature we're seeing in the Boston Metro. So seeing things weakening a bit when you get around southeast Connecticut. Center of the storm now heading in toward Franklin. Again, towns and times on that downpour with thunder and lightning. 7:33, it's raining now in Franklin. 7:33 on the core. 7:41 at Rentham. 7:50 at Foxborough. Let's check in again on the wind. We were going street level on wind for you just a short time ago, and street level on lightning. We can do both again. Velocity plot, still seeing a little bit of an increased wind signature right around Needham. Let me go ahead and put it down for you. Bam. Right in here, 34 miles an hour. You say, that's not bad. Nope, it's not. But at the same time, if you get that downpour with it, you may gust 50, and that may be enough to do some damage. So that's one area we'll watch. The other thing I want to do, I think it was I love that the National Weather Service, who was working over there, gave it a heads up. The forecaster was on was Hayden Frank. He did a great job, and he was saying, look, we're looking at the terminal Doppler radar, which is the one out of Logan Airport, which is a little bit closer and might give you a little bit better view. And there you go. There's that Oak Hill. We had talked a short time ago about how the Oak Hill neighborhood was one of the spots that was getting a little bit stronger wind burst, right? Same thing now over Webster Street, coming out of Needham Junction, the Birds Hill neighborhood. All right, you say these wind gusts don't look bad. Again, they don't, but you add to that the downpours, and you get a little bit of downward momentum, and that changes the game just a little bit and causes some stronger wind gusts as well. Street level lightning now, Milton getting into the lightning. My concern there is the same as it's been for about the last 90 minutes, which is we are seeing lightning showing up out ahead of the rain shaft. So right now at Canton Avenue in Milton Center, we just had a lightning strike, and that is without heavy rain. That's light rain that's coming down. Same thing when you get, where are we? Just outside of 28, Richmere Road, lightning strike, again, outside of the heavy rain. Then you start to get into the heavier rain around the American Legion Highway. Jamaica Plain, JP is into the heavy rain right now. You've got a new fresh strike. The flashing ones are fresh just within the last minute or so. Hammond Pond Parkway, Heath Street. All right, these are all areas that are getting live lightning strikes, and it's still ongoing out by Needham as well. Lightning strikes in Cambridge, Somerville, Boston, and Arlington. Center of the core of the storm over Newton right now. The center, the core of that storm. In other words, it should keep getting worse until you get to about 7:35 at Cambridge. Brookline about 7:32. Boston about 7:40. Chelsea 7:44. Winthrop 7:49. And Quincy at 7:50. Again, if you're just joining us, this is not meant to be purely a... there we go. Not meant to be purely a broadcast. I want to check the chat. We are on all sorts of media right now. We're on social media everywhere. We're on YouTube, Twitch, livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. Let me check the chat and see what you folks have had to say lately. Uploaded a photo to the app from Sudbury High School. Excellent. Okay, good. Thank you for doing that. Whenever you upload to the Send to Us tab in our app, if you're just watching us and you haven't downloaded our app yet, look for the number 1 degree outside, 1 degree outside weather on the App Store and Google Play. You'll be able to find access to us anytime. But more than that, when you send in pictures or reports through the Send to Us tab on that app, that goes directly to the National Weather Service Skywarn Spotter Network. and it gets relayed to the forecasters of the Weather Service. So you just saw me typing with the forecasters here on the side. We also are sending your reports in real time when you send it through that Send to Us tab of the app. It's a partnership we're so happy and proud to do because it's a way for all of us to work together to make sure folks are on top of things, and you're a huge part of that. So thank you for that. Getting dark in Danvers, trees starting to get more active. Here you go. You got it coming in. Started raining in Beverly. Thomas, thank you for that. Mini hail in Brighton. All right, Daniel. So here we go. The Brighton neighborhood of Boston getting hail. Very good. All right. And Scott, good. I'm glad you like what you see here. We're going to continue to provide it for you. And again, do we do the live stream for every thunderstorm? We don't. But do we do them when they're impactful and we think it's going to be a big deal? We do. And if you, when you get the app, if you're new to getting the app, let's see. Oh, interesting. Okay, so Danielle says concert at the Leader Bank Pavilion in Boston this evening in the Seaport District. There are covered and uncovered portions. The concert starts at 7:30. Okay, well, let's take a closer look here. I think that concert's not going to be quite on time. Wow. Chris says, wow, from torrential rain to street rivers to a rainbow, all in 20 minutes here in Lowland. Chris, Skywarn Spotter Network letting us know also that there is damage, just so you know, in both Lowell and Dracut. I don't think there's a lot. It's been pretty isolated, but it has been reported now as well. Look at that storm in Franklin trying to strengthen just a little bit. Why don't we, and I know it's ongoing in Boston. I'm going to take another look here. Why don't we just get a quick velocity scan out of Franklin? All right, so this is starting to try and develop a little burst out of Bellingham on 140. Let's probe that and see what we've got. Okay, not enough to write home about yet. Not enough to write home about yet. But that's oh, look how it just expanded right over Franklin, huh? Okay, we'll keep an eye on that. Let's go back up to the Boston Metro. All right, so we know now from Daniel on chat that we've got hail, mini hail in Brighton. I'm assuming probably about pea-sized or so. All right. Damage reports now coming in from Essex County. Damage reports now coming out of Essex County. Skywarn Spotter Network reporting that in. We'll get updates on that shortly. All right. Here we go with the storm that's over. I want to probe the wind on the storm that's over over Essex County. You just have to be careful when you get these storms in close. Yeah, see, you just have to be careful when you get these storms in close to the sea breeze, because there wasn't a sea breeze for anyone today, but there was an onshore wind, a southerly wind, when you get into Marblehead up to Gloucester. I want to pull up the actual surface odds. Yeah, we've gone southeasterly in Beverly. So that's my concern here, is we've got a southeast wind at Beverly. We have to be very careful that we don't spin up a little bit of tight rotation somewhere along that boundary. It's something that oftentimes happens at Long Island Sound. You get it just inland of the Sound. It's unlikely that we would need to worry about that actually dropping anything, but I do think that it's something that we want to keep an eye on. As you start to, So this is, okay, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and I've got a couple of other radar programs that I've got loaded up at the same time. So just so you know, what I'm looking at here, folks, is I'm looking at the fact that the greens indicate air moving one way, the reds indicate air moving the other, right? I can plot out the shear, and it's beginning to increase a little bit over Danversport. Now, it's nothing to be panicking about here at all, but it's just something that I certainly want to keep an eye on. Yeah, so we are getting over Danvers, and particularly Danversport, we are starting to get some decent some decent signs of air that's moving in different directions. Thankfully, each scan that comes in is a little bit more separate here. So we'll zoom in a little bit more right near Conant Street at 128 and 1A. All right, this is one area that we're watching very carefully. Yeah, okay, so we're continuing to see this kind of a budding wind, and you're continuing to see your shear over Elliott Street and Cabot Street. What does it mean for you in Beverly? It means I want you to certainly be staying sheltered indoors away from windows as this comes through. It has the potential to produce some increased wind but we need to make sure that we don't see it ramp up in terms of this, what we call gate-to-gate shear, this difference in wind. We need to make sure that it doesn't ramp up any more than it already has. All right. All right, so we're riding a fine line here, but we're going to keep a close eye and see what happens. Let's go over to the terminal Doppler radar out of Logan. Okay, so far it's still not quite ramped up to the point that we're overly concerned about something that would be tornadic yet. But this is the type of radar analysis that we do on a regular basis. Let me get back over to the regular radar. There we go. And so that's what we're going to be watching really carefully, is right on that line. And now you can see the radar algorithm is suddenly keying in on a tornadic signature. And again, those are not always correct. Those are not always correct. In fact, oftentimes they're not. But we need to be very careful in this area right here that's over Beverly. All right, I want to get back over it. We're starting to see a little bit of a notch, an increase in lightning. So at this point, if you're watching this live stream, I would say you certainly want to be indoors, away from windows here on this storm as it comes through. I want to get over the storm relative velocity for us. Whew, we're riding a really close line here, but at this point, we continue to see just enough separation that is not something that I think is imminently tornadic. But it's right over Essex Street in Beverly right now. It's just come over Cabot Street. It's riding northeast. What it's going to do, I already know what it'll do. It's going to ride right along that southeast wind that's coming off the ocean. It wants to straddle that boundary. I oftentimes think of these as kind of a living, breathing entity. And I know that sounds weird, but it's you talk to firefighters and they'll tell you the same thing about fire. But basically, you had a wind that did come southeasterly at Beverly, okay? It did the same thing at Gloucester. And then you had a southerly wind that was still a warm wind that was coming in when you get farther off to the south and west, okay? You had that coming in here. So what you've got to watch now is you've got to watch right on the boundary. So Essex, Beverly, 1A, Hamilton, Essex, maybe Ipswich. I don't think so, though. I think it's going to have to be right here. It's going to be right where the storm closes off, coming out of Wenham up toward Essex. Let me zoom you in, and let's see if we can get a little bit closer look at a street level on that so I can give you a little bit better feel. I want to turn that off. There we go. So we're right over Dodge Street at Wenham Neck. Again, right now we're sheltered indoors, away from windows. Here we go. It's coming over Centerville at this point, where we still have a little bit of rotation showing up. So again, are we sounding the alarm on a developing tornado? We're not. But are you seeing live, as I watch this tremendously carefully, Beverly Cove, another area where we've got a little rotation? Yes, we are watching this like a hawk. Right there, you can see the notch that's developing here. That's just over the east side of Beverly, too. This is the type of tricky situation you have to watch very carefully. What you essentially have right now, just so you know, you've got 1, 2, 3 areas of rotation that are trying to spin up. None of them have become strong enough to be imminently concerning for a tornado. However, the computer algorithm, that purple that you see, is picking up on what it believes is a tornadic signature, okay? Now, you come down over Boston, by the way, and you got heavy rain. You got nothing like that going on because you never got into a sea breeze in Boston. So you got a shear axis down here, and we'll watch you always got to watch the shear axis, definitely. I'll highlight that for you. This is where the wind changes direction, but it's not the same kind of thing that we're seeing off to the north here. All right? This right here, that's my concern. Right over Beverly Cove. All right? We're going to wait on a new scan that comes in every 60 seconds. But this is straddling the coast. this certainly increases the chance of wind damage either side of it. So the reason I keep looking up, I'll show you. The reason I keep looking off to the side as well is, let me see. I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to bring it up for you to see what I'm looking at. I actually have it set up here. Hold on. There we go. Okay, ready? Okay, North Street and Salem, thunder, lightning. Keep me posted, North Street and Salem. I'm looking at the chat. I'm watching this chat to see what we've got. All right. Middleton, Mass, tree and wires down. Just came in. So this is the area that I'm watching. Now, this green that you see in the lower right, all right? That green you see in the lower right, that's what we call normalized rotation. Basically, that's giving me an idea of how strong the rotation is. What I think is remarkable. Remember I just showed you, you've got multiple vortices, multiple little rotations going along it. So here you go. You can see that whole line in green of increased normalized rotation, of increased rotation that comes right up inland of the coastline there. Now I'm going to take you back over to that street level plot in a second. But this is what you've got to be really careful for, is that if you can get any of these to line up with one of those stronger updrafts, then you could spin up a weak EF0 tornado very, very quickly. Let's switch it back over. I'm going to get you switched back over to the more conventional radar. All right. Yep. So, okay. So it's over the water here, but now you've got, this is what I'm talking about. Now you've got a strong damaging wind signature starting to show up just off the coast. So here's Salem Neck. All right. And now, bam, on the back side of that little swirl, you're going, it's 36, 37. I'm telling you, though, you get right underneath that. If we go over to the radar, let's see. Yeah, I mean, you've got enough rain there. You're pulling down 50 miles an hour. It's just outside of Beverly Cove, right? But here's the concern. You're watching like a hawk. This notch right here over Beverly Farms, and what we just looked at, that normalized rotation going all the way up underneath those those updrafts that run essentially over Essex, all right? So this is one of those times where, look, I'm watching the chat. Everything you send to me on the chat from the North Shore, I appreciate. But this is one of those times where there's a game in town that's strong enough, you got to watch it real careful, right? So if you're watching this from Cape Ann or the North Shore, and you have friends and family at Cape Ann or the North Shore, let them know what we're doing so they can tune in. We're going to watch real careful. Now, look, you've got this is worth noting. Down to the south, you've got that severe thunderstorm warning that's going on. I'm not worried about, okay, and Chris, thank you. Chris saying that notch we're looking at is close to Endicott College. That's good to know. I'm not worried about rotation on the storm that's down to the south over Milton, but you may get a little pulse of damaging wind. I bet we're going to hear about damage done when you get around someplace like Milton Center, only because we had a pretty good gust of wind that came through. I'm just watching that same normalized rotation I showed you at the North Shore. So I'm giving you a view of the Boston Metro, but I'm keeping an eye on the North Shore at the same time. All right, let's go back to the North Shore. A lot of lightning. In this particular case, yeah, here you go. This is the center right here. This is your area that is winding up. Again, it's over the ocean right now. You've got to be very, very careful as this thing comes up toward Gloucester. You've got a notch in there. And so you want to be very careful with that. Let's see. Let's switch it over. Storm relative velocity again. Yep. So you can see it there. You definitely have, I'll point it out for you. You unquestionably have air wrapping into a center. All right. You've got a broad rotation. It's trying to tighten right in here. All right. So what I think we'll do at this point is I think I'll probably go ahead and take this moment while I'm going to shift this over to a more standard radar view so you can see that, okay? I am going to go ahead and I can, yep, okay, here we go. I can push notify just one area. So we are going to push notify Gloucester and Cape Ann so that we can get them to watch. All right, and get them to tune in so they can be on top of things here. Okay. Oh, and okay, latest scan looks like it came down a little bit. Let's go back. Yeah, so it is a well rotating storm. Listen, if you are Peter Lavasco, I don't know if you're still on up in Gloucester, but if there's unfortunately we've got lightning strikes. It's hard to do it safely. It's got to be one heck of a view looking from Magnolia right now. It's got to be a heck of a view on that storm coming up to you. So you're watching 1 Degree Outside Weather Network, and look, one of the things about just being continuous digital is that we can just go with whatever we think needs to have the most focus right now. And that is definitely a storm. It's trying to come up over Gloucester. So again, just to give you the pieces of what's happening here, if you're just tuning in, you've got air coming up on the south side around a rotating storm center, blasting around out of the north on the back side of this thing. If I zoom in a little bit, you'll see that's just southwest of Magnolia right now. And it's continuing to move off to the north, or northeast. It's basically coming straddling the coastline. So from Magnolia to Freshwater Cove to Rocky Neck to Bass Rocks and right in Gloucester proper, we are sheltered indoors away from windows. We're not down in the basement yet. Hasn't tightened up enough for that. But that is definitely an area that we're paying really close attention to. Down to the south, yeah, you do see some of that red and green. This is more of what we call a shear axis so far. This can produce damaging wind, and that's why I said I bet we'll find some sort of a wind damage report coming out of the Milton area by the time all is said and done. It's getting real gusty out ahead of this thing now when you get into Quincy. 93, the split. You've got what is, I'll go over to the more conventional radar for you. All right. It's getting real gusty on the front side. And actually, it's funny because you can look here and you can try to see a similar type of notch that comes up. But that is not as dangerous as the one that we're watching right now up at Cape Ann. So, and the one at Cape Ann, again, is not imminently producing a tornado. It's just one, it's one that we watch. I mean, okay, look, here, from the big view shows it probably better than anything. You can see the storm wrapped up into itself right there. And that, again, is going to be paralleling the coast. It's going to try and come up to Bass Rocks. All right, let's go ahead and see if we can get you the path. I'll take that. On its current path, that's about what you're looking at. All right, so I'll zoom in. Magnolia, you can see, I mean, look, it almost looks like a hurricane symbol, doesn't it? It's just because the storm is completely wrapped up into itself here. It's going to go over Magnolia, Freshwater Cove Village, Rocky Neck, Bass Rocks, Land's End, Eden Square. I'm going to keep you posted here. Okay, National Weather Service also says that Boston Terminal Doppler is indicating 45 plus knots of wind around 500 feet at Dorchester. So chances are good that we're going to get a damaging pulse around Dorchester as well. There we go. Let's get down there. All right. Let's look at that as well. Okay, so they must be finding a pixel somewhere. It's about 45, but mostly I'm getting about 30 out of that. Which again, when you get the downpour mixed in, you absolutely can gust 45 miles an hour out of that, undoubtedly. Okay, so we're seeing a couple of things here for those of you at Cape Ann that I like, which is this. The axis from the north and west has caught up to Cape Ann. So what you're looking at here is, see the big line? This is where we had the multiple small kind of vortices, spins that were rippling along it, right? That now has pushed south and east. So now look what's happening. Your main spin is traveling along the front edge of it. And that means that if you can keep this push going, then instead of coming right up over Bass Rocks, you're going to get this thing to ride right along the front edge. And it would come out essentially just off the coastline. So I like that we're starting to see that push from the north and west come in. That may be a bit of a saving grace here that can get that mesocyclone off. Because remember, it's not even necessarily just that, yeah, you're going to watch it. Yeah, see, good. You're starting to see that shift off. See that? Look, even just since we updated it, look at that now. Now you're starting to see a little bit more of a shift riding on the front edge. That's good. Because here's the thing. It's not even just the tornadic threat. It's the fact that you're pulsing the wind so strong on the backside. So that's a good thing that we're seeing that shifting farther to the southeast. That makes me much more comfortable with what's going on there. Here's your burst that's coming into Milton now, back into Milton again. So you've almost kind of fed a new burst of wind out of Dorchester. Still not super strong right now, though. So at this point, I think you've still got that shear axis. Let's probe this stuff coming into Quincy. What do we have here? 21. All right. And let's go ahead and let's try the terminal Doppler radar. Yeah, I don't think you're going to see anything a whole lot worse here. So I think we're in a place that is not a terrible spot. I think we're getting away from what has been the concerning time at Cape Ann. I think the fact that we just saw the squall line catch up to the mesocyclone, or the rotating part of the storm, is huge. It's hugely helpful and hugely good. Because if I go through even just the last 15 minutes, watch what happened. There it is. It catches the rotation, and bam, what was moving northeast gets swept out now farther to the east. The tornado signature that you started to see showing up from radar, which I told you can't really trust anyway, but that starts to go away. All right? So I like this. This is something where I feel much better about Bass Rocks, feel much better about Gloucester, because now we've seen that squall line pick it up and carry it farther down to the south and east. Good. Let's get to the chat and see what's going on, what you guys have to say. Good gust, Lower Mills next to Milton. Okay, raining like crazy. Thank you. Appreciate it. Rainbow in South Brookline. Awesome. Torrential rain and thunder in Peabody. Sun trying to come out in Dorchester. There we go, Charles. There we go. Maybe you'll get the rainbow too. Tons of people have been getting the rainbow today. I love this. Love this. I'm looking at social media at the same time. If there's anything cool to show you. Oh, you want to see the view? This was from looking north. Actually, I blew it up, and it's not as impressive as I thought at first glance. Not as impressive. Let me show it to you. Hold on. Where's our browser? Here we go. Give me a sec. That's looking north from South Weymouth. Looked really good on the small image. Not bad. Not bad. What we got here? Oh, this is okay. Let's go full screen on this. This is in Waltham. So they got their street flooding that was going on there. Again, if you have this stuff, anything you send in, videos, photos, etc., reports, you use the Send to Us tab, in our app, our 1 Degree Outside Weather app. It immediately goes to the National Weather Service Skywarn Spotter Network. We share it right away. So please, by all means, feel free to share with us anytime. We are happy to share with others as well. All right, good. Good. Okay. All right, this one is about 18 minutes old now. Let's see how this looks. Oh, you ready? This is amazing. Hang on, here it comes. Groton, Connecticut. Yeah. That's about 18 minutes old. Woo! You want to see the radar? Let's get you down there. Which is amazing considering that storm really weakened on approach. Imagine what that thing must have looked like. I mean, we saw the rotation at one point out of Connecticut. We looked at it right here on social media, just like this. That must have looked pretty amazing when that was coming in. That is incredible stuff. Wow. Let's get you back over to the radar. You can see it, okay? Oh, the stream isn't showing it 1 degree outside it anymore, huh? Oh, that's a shame. Oh, I wonder what happened. Gee whiz. That would be our Twitch stream that would have come down then. Oh, I'm still seeing it. I'm still seeing it at 1 degree at livestream.1degreeoutside.com. All right, so yeah, that was pretty impressive on those. On that storm that blasted through southeast Connecticut. That was an impressive shot, huh? Let's get you back up, Boston area. Technically still a severe thunderstorm warning. Still possible that there could be a little bit of damage done around Weymouth, North Weymouth, Hingham. Let's go over to the velocity scan here. All right, this is going to be another area we'll pay attention to. You can see, here we go again, but you're starting to get a little bit of kind of a wrapping in of the storm that's happening here. All right, it's trying to wrap around the center. So we always pay attention to that because anytime you get a storm wrapping up, but this is a pretty broad scale wrapping in of the storm that's going on here. I'm not as concerned about something like that unless it continues to tighten, but it's an impressive storm to look at. I bet it looks amazing for those of you from Rockland or Hanover or Norwell. If you're seeing it, use the Send to Us tab in the app. I'd love to see it. Or social media. You got to get it that way too. One of the things I look at here, Braintree. How strong is that little burst of wind? It's coming over you. Let's take a look together. Not bad. Not bad. Even with a downpour figured in, I don't think you're damaging there. I really don't. Even with the fact that we usually get more damage done in metro centers, just because there's more stuff to damage, frankly. Here we go. All right, Attleboro, I promised you earlier you'd get something. So here you go. We're going to make good on that promise. Closing in on Norton, Mansfield, Attleboro, Raynham. It's on its way to you. Beverly Airport gusted to 35 miles per hour, by the way, when that storm went by. Doesn't look like we've got anything damaging for wind with this one coming in through Foxborough, Mansfield. This is downpours, thunder, lightning. This will continue down to the south and east, but actually, this is interesting too. If I go over the last 30 minutes, you can start to see some weakening near Narragansett Bay. So I think we're probably talking about a situation where even as it makes its way down to the Cape, which it will, it'll survive through Lakeville, you'll get something. I don't think you're going to get anything severe. I'd be shocked. Let's update our thunderstorm energy. Let me get to the current radar. Zoom out a little bit for everybody who's kind of in it still. Pretty good storm over western Connecticut. No severe thunderstorm warning with it. Pretty good storm. Some gusty wind. Gust to about 40 out of that one. Okay, so I was going to show you the current thunderstorm energy. Some of this, I bet we've taken away a lot of that energy around Marlborough and Worcester. I mean, it's gone. It's gone by you. But the point that I wanted to make here is once you start getting southeast of Taunton, you're really running out of energy. You've had a southerly wind today, and while a southerly wind meant Boston stayed unstable and good for thunderstorms, it ain't that good for the Cape. So it'll survive. You'll get some showers. Will it survive to the outer Cape? I'm not even sure on that one, to be honest with you. I mean, it's dying pretty good right now in Rhode Island, and that's where a south wind's been coming up off Block Island Sound. But you can see, gone. Thunderstorm energy to the north, gone. Done. A little bit more over Canada. That'll come into the North Country. Northern Maine's got that going right now. None of it's severe, I don't believe. We'll check in a second. But this stuff, you'll get some lightning tonight in the North Country over the next couple hours. That should be it. I highly doubt it survives into southern New England. It would surprise me. In fact, here is the forecast as we go on. There comes the stuff into the North Country, crossing the Canadian border, 11:30 tonight. Dying out. Done. Over. So at this point, if we go back to the analysis and the radar, this is the last bit that you're dealing with here. Just getting off of Gloucester. Goodbye. So happy to see the rotation shift off with that squall. That squall line was the saving grace. That was the saving grace. And still going over Weymouth. But again, last time we checked, didn't look like there was anything that was, well, okay, not. The show's not over here. You got a brand new severe thunderstorm warning, and here's why. The show's not over at Randolph, right? Because you've still got a burst of wind trying to develop back behind this thing. If we go over to the regular radar scan, the concern here is that you're going to take that leading edge here. Okay? You're going to bring it southeast. Oh, do I have to zoom out? Don't trust those towns and times. Give me a second. Zoom out a little bit. All right? There we go. Let's do it again. So we'll take your towns and times on the leading edge of the bad stuff anyway. There we go. And here's your towns and times. Now look, this is something, we had a question out of Plymouth earlier asking if this was going to be like it was a couple weeks ago on July 3rd. I mean, that was terrible, right? And I said no, and I still don't think it's going to be at all. This is a different setup. That was a broad, damaging wind setup that came in out of the west-southwest. This is an isolated, damaging wind pocket scenario coming out of the northwest, and it is not going to produce the same result for you in someplace like Plymouth that it did last time around. Okay, so I don't want you to worry about a repeat. But in terms of this perhaps isolated pocket of damaging wind that may be over Randolph right now, it would be to Whitman by 8:07, Hanson by 8:10, Duxbury at 8:23, and Plymouth at about 8:34. Again, we'll watch the stuff coming over Attleboro as well. Right now, no sign of damaging wind with it. But it's got until about, we look together at the thunderstorm energy, it's got till about Taunton to strengthen. And then after that, it starts a declining trend. Same thing with the stuff that's coming toward Rockland right now. It's got till about Bridgewater and about Duxbury to try and gain some steam or hold its own. And then it's going to go the other way. It's going to start declining after that. Let's check the chat. What do you have for us? Alec, let me go back a little bit more. I missed a few. I apologize. I haven't checked in a little while here. All right. Storms have died out. Nothing in Central Rhode Island. Yep, they're gone in Rhode Island. Immediate change of air after the storm. Daniel, all right. You can feel it in Boston and Brighton, huh? Excellent. Russ, pouring in East Weymouth. Constant rumbling in the distance as approach quiet down a lot. Good. Yeah, it's definitely shifting south here. And it's changing characteristic. It's going to, a little isolated pocket of damage now. It's mostly a thunder lightning event with maybe a pocket of damaging wind that I'm not even convinced is going to happen, but it's possible. Sun's starting to come out western Cranston, Rhode Island. Rain for 5 minutes. Yeah, it depends on where you were with this one. Yeah, Alex wondering why the watch hasn't been trimmed down, the severe thunderstorm watch, because it's up till 9 p.m. for a whole bunch of the area. You know what? They'll end up trimming it down, and if they haven't already, they will soon. But in a case like this, honestly, I don't even think much about it. I just say, all right, here's where the meteorology of it is at. So we know that Western Mass is done. We know that all the areas I showed you where the thunderstorm energy is done. It's all over. We can zoom out a little bit more. All this area, everywhere, basically north and west of this line is over. We'll go through some of the damage here in just a second. I want to get through more of the chat here because you guys have a lot to offer. Brian Wilworth, oh, what a pleasure to see you on here. Folks, Brian and I worked together for all 22 years that I was at NECN. Brian, you're fantastic. Great to see you. Big time thunder and lightning and rain in Weymouth right now. Folks, give Brian a big thank you here on the chat because he was my first producer ever at NECN, and he would give me the time to talk about the weather. Look at all the time I have now. Gave me the time to talk about the weather. I could not have developed my career the way I did without you, Brian. Thank you. Storms are weakening to the point whatever survives is going to be. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Rhode Island is done, Alec. I agree with you. Paul, you're welcome. Absolutely, 100%. Let me check and see what other chats I have. I want to catch up on everybody here. I want to make sure that if you've spoken up that I hear about you. Jocelyn and Giovanni. Oh, I'm glad you like the coverage. Thank goodness. Good. I appreciate you. Please, if you'd be so kind, spread the word. Let folks know. Friends, family, let them know. Just to get the app. It would be great to get them on board. It would be super. Jan says Rockport local weather station showed 7-inch per hour burst. Amazing. Holy cow. Wow. Well, listen, this is, I want to take one more look down Southern Connecticut. We know a lot of you watch Southern Connecticut and also South Shore. We're going to look here in a second as well because that is still rumbling. Rumbling and bumbling. Look at that thing. It's still going. It does not want to die. Remember what we looked at. It's got that little pool of thunderstorm energy till it gets basically to Bridgewater, Marshfield, Duxbury. So it's got some room to run. Let's go to velocity. Let's check out the wind. Yeah, it's losing it more and more. It's fighting a dying battle. So now I look at this and I say, you know what? You maybe could say that you had a little bit of a damaging burst headed for Avon, but it's going to be isolated. If it's anything, it's going to be isolated. It's not going to be a widespread. Come down to the one to the south, coming out of Attleboro. Again, not overly concerned here. What do we got? Let's probe it. You ready? Yeah. So at this point, I think let me go over to the main radar again. There we go. Oh, how are you? There we go. It's coming right up on the radar site at Taunton. So, yep, you've got a severe thunderstorm warning that will remain in effect for the South Shore till 8:45. It is possible you get damage. I think the bigger thing here is that you're going to get a lot of cloud ground lightning. There's a ton of it in there. You can zoom in. You can see it all. All the strokes. Again, white, the more kind of normal negative lightning negatively charged strikes. Yellow would be positive. You've got some positive ones mixed in. When I see a lot of positive, I get worried because it means it's strengthening. Greenbush to Fourth Cliff. You've got some lightning now, cloud to ground. So just keep that in mind. If you got friends, family down Marshfield, Duxbury, let them know. They've got the warning now anyway, probably from the severe thunderstorm warning on the phone if they've got our app. But just tell them to download our app so they can follow it and watch it. Southern Connecticut, last look for you, non-severe. Downpours, lightning, thunder, damage unlikely, not impossible. But if we go to the Long Island radar and we switch over to velocity, let's probe it. So you're probably gusting 40. All right. So I think we're in a good place. I do. I think we've gotten through the worst of it. In terms of the damage, I said we'd do a little roundup of that. So we've got Salem, Connecticut, tree limbs down, power outage that's there. We've got South Windsor, Connecticut, tree on wires, another tree down on a house. We've got Enfield, Connecticut. Enfield always gets damaged from storms. A few trees down on top of wires. There's Belchertown, several trees down in Belchertown, Turkey Hill Road. That was one. A lot of this stuff we reported to you live as it was happening. Here we go from Beckett, tree down. We reported that live when it was happening. Yep. This one we reported live as well out of Lee. And then we told you there was damage that was coming in out of Middleton. Let's see if it's up. There it is. Tree and wires down in Middleton. No exact location given on that one just yet. We also know from the Skywarn Spotter Network there was damage that was done at Lowell, Dracut. There were a couple other spots that we reported during the live stream. And it was thanks to your reports. Thank you, everybody who chimed in on the chat. Again, watch out. South Shore, you're not out of the woods. You got a lot of lightning with that yet. But I'm going to let myself go pretty soon. And I'm going to go have some dinner. I think my girls are already sleeping. I missed them, but nonetheless, we got through this one, and we're going to kind of coast to the finish line on this one. So, thank you, everybody. Let me just check the chat one last time, make sure I'm not missing anything. Nope, I think we're good. So, thanks, everybody. Please do spread the word. Do let folks know that we're doing this. Like any operation, we're a startup, and so there's a lot that goes with that staring at the ceiling at night thing. So, look, the more folks you let know about 1 degree outside, tell them to download the app, the more folks we can reach. And it'll be great. Thanks, guys. Have a great evening, and keep the app on, location notifications, so if there's anything else, we can get it out to you. Thank you. Have a good night.